Comics Aficionados. I'm Wes. I have a great panel for you today. First time on the channel, Larry Bernard. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. So who recommended me to show up, or did you just say, hey, that Larry guy on Twitter's interesting, I should drag him in?
Yeah, we talk in our DMs every once in a while. I was like, he likes to talk about comics. I should have him on. You probably even seen the Joker movie. All right. Also on the panel today, the real comic book gamer himself, Dylan. What's going on, buddy?
How's it going, man?
Oh, man. Is it cold there?
A little bit, yeah. It's finally starting to get cold. It's like 40
Where do you
degrees
live?
here.
North Dakota?
No,
Anchorage,
I live in
Alaska?
No, I live in Washington, but like in the morning it's cold. During the day it's nice and it's fine, but in the morning it's cold.
So do you live in the whole SeaTac Valley area where the weather is freakish, or do you live out towards the eastern end of the state?
I live about 30 minutes outside Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle weather's weird.
Yeah.
It's notorious. Also with us today, there's no Doc, so Ash, my co-host, what's going on, buddy?
Good morning, everyone. I got my Monster Ultra Sunrise. I'm ready to talk some comics.
Oh, yeah.
And last but not least, Pele, what's going on, buddy?
Oh, just getting situated. I had to go open the shop this morning and came back, but I've got my coffee and I'm ready to talk some comics for 3 hours.
Nice. All right, first up, we're going to talk about the Joker film. So Todd Phillips Joker movie just claimed a huge preview night record for October. It earned $13.3 million. This is a strong start. Joker initially is going to bring in 75 to 85 million for the first weekend, and maybe 90 depending on how it plays out. And this easily broke the record from Venom, which was last year, I believe. I know we have two people that saw the movie. Dylan, what were your thoughts? I know you got a review up.
I liked it, but it's not a movie that I'd like. When I got out of the theater, I was thinking, I don't know if I'll ever watch it again. It's kind of like I liked it. I enjoyed the experience. I'm glad I saw it, but I don't know if I ever really need to or want to see it again. It was good, but it could have been about anyone. It didn't need to be about the Joker. Like, you take away all the elements of the Joker, like Joker being in Gotham, having Thomas Wayne and stuff, and the movie's the exact same. Like, being all that didn't add anything. It felt like they just did that because if this was like an A24 film about some crazy guy with Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix, not as many people would have go see it, but you tax the Joker and all of a sudden it could break all these records. And I feel like that's what it was.
So you're saying you put a guy in clown makeup and everybody loses their minds?
Yeah, exactly. But I just it was really good. I don't really want to say anything to like spoil anything. So, but it was good. Joaquin Phoenix did a great job. Like, he killed it, but it didn't need to be a Joker movie because they didn't really do anything specifically that added to be like, oh, that's the Joker. Like, even in comparisons to like Heath Ledger's Joker, who was not too comic accurate, was more so than Joaquin Phoenix's. But yeah, I liked it. It's definitely worth seeing. If you were interested in seeing it, definitely go see it and form your own opinion about it. But it's not like the best movie ever.
All right, Larry, tell them how it's the best movie ever.
So it's the best movie ever because it takes mental illness seriously in a movie. My co-host that I do my streaming show with works in mental health, and he and I both marveled on how accurate the portrayal of Joaquin Phoenix as a mentally ill person in the movie was, and how accurate it was about how mentally ill people... You've heard the story whenever there's a quote-unquote mass shooting going on about how, oh, there are all these red flags. Why did nobody stop this person before the tragedy happened? Well, this movie shows why that happens and why that plays out the way it does. And I don't think it had to be a DC movie, but I think it being a DC movie enhanced the final act of the film. Because, no spoilers, this is a movie about a man who's transformed into the Joker, but in my personal opinion, it's not so much that he's transformed into the Joker, that this man becomes an embodiment for a moment where the setting goes from generic 1970s, 1980 New York City to Gotham City. And that transformation in both the character of the Joker and the city is embodied by the Joker as a being.
Interesting. So you would both recommend it, but Dylan, you would just recommend it slightly less.
Yeah. I actually plan to watch it again to look for like little subtle things I may have missed on the first pass of the movie.
So like one of the things the movie does the best though is how uncomfortable you are, like in a good way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's there like so much of the movie is just really uncomfortable. Like I want to get out of here, but I can't. And I mean that in like the best way possible.
So,
how
like,
uncomfortable it is.
You know how there's the whole joke that Endgame started about, oh, you need to pee before you go watch the movie. Like, I drank my extra large drink, which is one of my problems when I watch movies. And like for other movies, like going, yeah, I can take a pee break in this section of the film. I needed to go, but I stayed for the whole movie because you couldn't leave because every moment mattered. And a lot of the stupid talk by critics online is like, oh, people feel sympathetic for the Joker. No, you don't feel sympathy for him. It opens with him being a deeply and profoundly disturbed person. And you're like going, oh, it's that kind of story. Oh, this is not, oh, we hope he doesn't become crazy. No, he's mentally ill. He's severely mentally ill at the start of the movie. And
so it's more on the lines of like Silence of the Lambs, where Anthony Hopkins is extremely energetic, and you're like, wow, he's that character, but like I don't want him to win. Like
no,
he is a bad guy. Like
you see the road the movie's going on. The movie in the opening makes it clear that it's a Joker movie, so you obviously know where the movie's going. But like you say, I mean I do, but I don't want to see how this all goes horribly wrong for him.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not sympathetic for him as like, I relate to him and his struggle. You're like going, oh, this is all terrible. I don't want that to happen to him.
Yeah, I feel like it's more sympathetic in the fact that, this could have all been avoided if someone just did A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Instead of like, oh, he just killed that person, they deserved it. Like, there's none of that. At all. It's just like, oh man, there were some rough situations that could have been avoided. But you feel some sympathy for him when they're in certain moments. But as soon as he does something bad, it's never like the movie glorifies or is like, see, this person deserved it because of this. There's none of that. Like the media and stuff has been saying.
There is a killing where he's kind of sort of justified, but then he goes overboard.
Yeah, and that's only once too.
Yeah.
I just want to make a shout out to something. There's an app called RunP, which is which you can look at and set up little notifications during a movie to vibrate to let you know when the best time to go pee during a movie. And so if you got to go, and the app will the app will boot like, oh, okay, well I can go now. You run real quick and come back. So it makes sure to give you about 2 or 3 minute window, so you don't miss anything important during film. And I wholly, as a disabled American who has a bladder that's not exactly as well performing as it used to be, this is a 10 out of 10 app for me. So I fully recommend it.
Hey Dion, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Awesome. Welcome to the stream, Dion. Did you see Joker yet?
No, I have not seen the movie yet, but I plan to.
Yeah,
Awesome.
It's a difficult movie to talk about without spoiling it, even though you can explain the story without spoiling it, but that's not really explaining the movie.
Yeah, because there's so much of it that like you have to experience for the first time. That there's not much you can really say.
And also, in addition to the acting being disturbing, Joaquin Phoenix dropped like 51, 61 pounds for that movie, and he looked skeletal. Not as bad as Christian Bale did in The Machinist, but he just looks terrible. And
Was it like Christian Bale in The Fighter?
He looked lean then, but he wasn't.
Yeah, he looked lean. No. He was more emaciated. He was more emaciated.
He looked like those. In The Machinist, he looked like some of the pictures you see of concentration camp victims. Yeah, he looked that bad. So,
yeah, Joaquin Phoenix looked like he had a few more meals than the Machinist Christian Bale did.
All right, so guys, I know there's a big controversy there. People predicting their incels were going to be rising up because of this movie and shooting up theaters. It's weird. It's cancel culture now. It's pre-cancel culture. So I know there was a lot of, security concerns. Larry, did you see anything at the theater? Was there extra security? Were they taking any other precautions?
2 security guards that were quote unquote armed. I heard that there was a third one, but I didn't see him. They were armed with everything except a firearm. And there was a armored police officer who was patrolling the mall, who was in body armor. And
Okay, so yes.
So I entered the movie in first before everybody else, and then like a group of people came in. They hadn't turned on like the advertisement before the movie, and somebody said, "I don't know, the screen's off. I think we should all take Gamers Rise Up and see what happens."
Mm-hmm. And what was it like in Seattle? Did you have the same experience?
Where I was at, it was just they're generally speaking on like opening nights. There's one security guard there, and same. It was just one. There's one police officer there. That was it. Like there wasn't anything extra special there. So yeah.
I mean, good for the cop for drawing overtime pay, probably to do that.
All right, so we do have a question from one of our viewers. Eodius Lee says, "Were any of you guys scared in any of the bloody scenes shown?"
Not scared,
That's
but there
not
was
what's scary. The murder isn't what's scary. It's disturbing. The violence in this movie is taken seriously. It's not as violent as, say, Deadpool, but all the violence is very real tonally.
You feel all the violence, unlike, say, Deadpool. But there is not the violence itself, but there's a scene where someone gets stabbed, and the way Joker handles everything afterwards is very intense.
So when you see... So did you laugh in the awkward moment immediately following that?
I didn't really laugh. That's the thing, though, like that I wanted a bit more from this Joker. Because my favorite on-screen Joker is, I don't know if any of you guys have played the Arkham games, but Arkham Asylum Joker is my favorite because it's literally animated series Joker, but unleashed because it doesn't have to be for kids.
Mark Hamill. Is that Mark Hamill?
Yes. And it's Paul Dini writing it.
Incredible.
So it's perfect. It's Paul Dini writing him and Mark Hamill playing him, and it's perfect. And that's my favorite like on-screen Joker. And so this Joker wasn't really particularly funny at really any moment. There was like one moment that was kind of a little bit, but I never really laughed at like anything Joaquin Phoenix Joker said.
So in that particular violent sequence he mentions, there's something that happens where there's tension where you don't know what's going to happen next, and something happens and everybody in my audience laugh. I can't go into detail because it would spoil it, but once you see the movie, you'll know the scene I'm talking about. It's like really dark and like black to laugh at, but we all laughed because we didn't know what was going to happen, and it was kind of funny in that respect.
It was more like an awkward laugh, like.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah. So is it a gory movie? Because I know when I went and saw Hannibal Lecter, I walked out of that thing going, I'm never going to go watch that movie again. It's too bloody. Well, is it that kind of impactful?
Besides the
one level.
Yeah. Besides the one scene where someone gets stabbed, no, like it's not really.
That
the rest
stabbing
of it's
scene is really brutal.
Yeah.
Okay, I can handle one scene, but there's like 5 of them in that movie. And
there's people getting shot.
Yeah,
and that's not super bloody.
Yeah, speaking about violence, I did hear that the theater that I normally attend has hired additional security for the weekend. They're going to have sheriff deputies that they're paying off duty to come and sit during the viewings. But that's all I've heard about as far as any for additional security. My friend is the manager, and he said that he's not as of yesterday he had not received any missives from the theater chain to do anything other than add a couple security people. So
interesting. So they're taking some precautions, but nothing.
Yeah, taking some precautions. There's no
extraordinary.
Yeah, nothing extraordinary there. I mean, this is just to try to get people to not go to the film. You got all the the crazy, ridiculous cancel culture journalists that are trying to destroy the film from the onset because of all the oh my god white incel fear, and but they're just trying to but what's ironic about that is they're having the opposite effect in that people are like, oh my god, I've got to go see this. If it's so controversial, I've got to check it out. So
the only credible threat, and I'm going to use a strong air quote on credible, was a movie theater in Oklahoma had a unspecified but quote-unquote credible threat on the dark web that the military took seriously enough to issue a warning to soldiers in all theaters. So this is kind of a panic. And like a lot of panics, people realize this is stupid.
That kind of stuff happens. I was in the military for over 20 years. You get general weird warnings and stuff like that. If it was specific, it would have been a little bit more than that. So, let's talk about the cancel culture thing before we move on to Birds of Prey. Dion, you're the youngest guy on the panel here. What do you think about cancel culture? Is it something that's like in your generation? Does it bother you?
It does, honestly. And also pretty much inhibits like people's like expression of art. Art and is getting really tired from all sides of the aisle. But how people handles it, that's another beast.
Yeah, just because you don't like the art doesn't mean someone else can't appreciate it. Ash, I know you're pretty riled up about this kind of stuff. What are your thoughts on cancel culture and its respects to the Joker?
Wow, that's a mighty big can of worms you just opened there. Cancel culture is ridiculous. It's stupid. It's, in my personal opinion, not to get too political, but it's this tyranny. That's everything starts off with controlling people. That's how tyranny sets its foothold in. And in order to do that, you need to show people that they can be controlled. And in our society, it's one of the ways is through cancel culture. It keeps people in line. Oh shit, I don't want to step out of line. I'll be canceled. So I got to be a good little boy or girl and stay in the lines and do what I'm told and not act out. Otherwise, I might be canceled. And what it does is it allows society to bend the rest of society to their will outside of the normal purview of like laws and things that we have. Like we've set up a nation of laws, like, you can't rob people, you can't kill people. We have general law and order, but those laws also don't step in and say, well, you can't say this, you can't say that. We're allowed to, in this country, we're allowed to have, freedom of speech. We have the right to bear arms. We have a lot of freedoms that the founders thankfully recognized. The government should only step in so much just to run that. You shouldn't control everyone's lives. Well, when a society goes, we want to control lives, and the government doesn't do enough, we're going to find ways around it. It bends people through this thing. Cancel culture is just one of the tools. It doesn't happen necessarily everywhere, but you go back and look at history, and unfortunately, it's become cliche to always go back to Nazi Germany, but if you go back in the 30s, before the actual Nazis took power, they were doing things by having neighbors spy on each other and do things. And so people started to be afraid about what they did, not because of what the government was going to do, but because of what their neighbors were going to do. And that's kind of where we are now. And with things like social media, it's just amplified that beyond anything most people that, aren't named Orson Welles could have thought of. Sorry, Orwell, not Orson Welles. I always screw those names up. George Orwell.
Yes, if you haven't seen 1984 or
plug it in directly to the printer, that'd be easier. But I'm gonna be on a bit.
All right, Bailey, what are your thoughts on cancel culture, my friend?
Good Lord. It's Marxist control. It's the West version of the credit, the social credit system. Only instead of being directly imposed by the government, it's imposed by social leaders, entertainment, the especially the media, our especially nasty smear merchant style journalism that we have nowadays, where if you step out of line once, then your life is ruined. And it doesn't even have to be stepping out of line. You just have to disagree with them, disagree with that narrative. And it's really, it's terrifying. There's a reason why I'm anonymous online, and that reason is because they can destroy your business, destroy your friendships, turn your friends and family into pariah. So it's just it's a very scary time in our society right now, and it all rotates around who can you criticize and who can you not criticize. And it's I mean, the director himself, he'll be lucky. I mean, he'll do really well with this film, but some studios will just never touch him again after this, because he's seen as the the right-wing Nazi incel director, and this is what's going to be going forward. And it's ironic considering the fact that the film itself has a left-wing bias, involving the tribalism that's associated with, those who have against those who have not, and it talks about, there's a lot of it having to do with, those who are in privilege and those who are not in privilege, using air quotes. So, even though he was more or less on their side as far as social issues, as far as economic matters, but they're going to try to wreck him anyway because of who the Joker is. And he didn't make anything up about this is who this character's been. He's a psychopath. That's what he does. This is not more egregious than comics that came out 30, 40, 50 years ago. It's just that it's in the national spotlight right now that, oh my gosh, it's a white man who's disgruntled. Well, that means that he has to be one of the quote incels. So it's very sad.
That is an extremely shallow take on the movie.
And of course it is. They couldn't make Taxi Driver now. If Taxi Driver came out, everybody would lose their minds.
Well, they couldn't make Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls anymore.
No, there's several movies that are absolutely
all the jokes that he makes when he's in Africa.
Yeah.
I mean, should they have made Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls in the first place is the better question.
Absolutely, I love that movie. That's great. Slinky down the thing. That's amazing. But
yeah, I worry about that. I worry about that going forward. What society is going to look like for my children, and my adult children. And who in all the generations that come after, unless we get a handle on it now.
But yeah, I'm not a fan of cancel culture, and it goes both ways. Both sides are using it now. And I hate it when anyone uses it. If somebody wants to go out and say something that you don't like, say your piece and move on. They don't need to be deplatformed. They don't need to be wiped out of existence. Just disagree and move on with your life. They're not doing anything to you personally, but everyone kind of takes things personally right now, and it's too bad, because I think everyone should have an opportunity to say what they believe, even if it's something I don't like. But with that, let's move on to the next subject, the wonderful Birds of Prey trailer this week. So, where do we want to start out with this one?
Well, let's start off with the obvious. We had certain things we liked about Margot Robbie's portrayal of Harley Quinn. Let's get rid of all of those in this next movie for that character. That's a great idea. I'm sure that will work out well for you.
Yeah, so there's the problem, first off, that it's called Birds of Prey, but it's not a Birds of Prey movie. It's a Harley Quinn movie. And then it doesn't even have Barbara Gordon or Oracle in it, so it doesn't make sense that it's Birds of Prey with that. And then it kind of looks like it has everything really bad about Suicide Squad, except the Enchantress lady that was doing this, like all wrapped into this movie, except, it'll be the whole film. What did you think of the trailer, Dylan?
I hated it. It was terrible. Well, Suicide Squad, I think, is the worst DCEU film. Out of all of them, I think that's the worst. But it's nice of Birds of Prey to come along and dethrone it already. But it's just, it looks so bad. Like you're saying, Harley Quinn was decent in the Suicide Squad movie. Like, there are some things I enjoyed about her. As much as that movie was terrible, Margot Robbie did good. But this, she just like turned it even more obnoxious, like the New 52 version. And it just looks so bad. No one looks like their comic book counterpart at all. If you didn't tell anyone this was a Birds of Prey movie and you removed Harley Quinn, no one would recognize this as a comic book movie. No one would be like, hey, that's Huntress, that's Black Canary. No one would recognize that. No one looks like that. I love Ewan McGregor, though, so I'm happy that he's Black Mask, even though he's probably never going to wear a black mask. At least he's in it. But there's not really, like, I don't plan on seeing this one. The only bright side to this is that I like Ewan McGregor. That's like it.
And let's be real. People like Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn because she was being hot topic attractive girl. And so we're going to make her a dumpy house mom, but who uses a color palette of an attractive, witty teenager. Yeah, no. They've completely neutered the character. I think worse than New 52 did. Also, I hate Harley Quinn as DC Comics Deadpool, but female as a character. I hate that.
She's a villain. I mean, that's what kills me. She's a villain. She's also another homicidal maniac, and she's elevated to the hero status, which I don't understand. I don't understand writers nowadays that they're so attracted to the villains. Even right now, DC's Year of the Villain. Over it. I'm over it. Can we just have heroes again? How hard is that?
The fact that she switched so fast from hero to villain like that, and like everyone in the DC universe except her, and it's supposed to be believable. Like in Heroes in Crisis, they believe her over Booster. Booster has been a hero the whole time. He's been selfish and all that, but been a hero the whole time. But Harley Quinn, who's been this villain and only been a hero for like a year or whatever, everyone's like, oh yeah, she's telling the truth. Why would you ever listen to Harley? I don't get that switch where it went from she was a villain and then all of a sudden she's a hero and everyone's like, yeah, she's cool with me. Like Batman, the most skeptical guy in the universe, is like, yeah, she's definitely all good. Doesn't make any sense.
Well, Batman's also the most prepared man in the universe, and he got owned by Harley Quinn along with Superman and Wonder Woman at the same time. So, Heroes in Crisis is really bad.
Yeah.
It ranks right up there with the Gotham Girl knocking out one of the most powerful characters in the DC universe. It's just, oh man.
They're both written by the same great guy.
Yeah, dumbass. What a moron. He's just the worst writer in comics right now, hands down. Well, he and Wade are like vying for that.
I don't know. This week's Batman is actually pretty good. Shocking.
I feel like
I think Bendis is getting worse every month.
I think Bendis is worse because I feel like King has the potential to be good when he gets out of his Watchmen era. Like in his head, he's like, I read Watchmen. I know how to make superhero subversives. And so he always tries to do that. But when he does something different, he can actually be decent. It's just he's always in that, got to be the next Alan Moore. And you're not half as talented as Alan Moore, so you can't do that. And that's, I think, his big problem. To where when he goes outside that, he could do some decent stuff. It's just he's always stuck in that, and it's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike Bendis, who's just awful.
Yeah, Ash, talk about Bendis. I know you want to talk about Bendis.
Oh, okay. I was sitting here getting prepared to talk about Bird of Prey, but I'll shift gears.
Come on, let's hear Bendis, baby. I know you got something to say.
Well, I got tons to say. You want to derail this puppy? No, just Bendis is, in my opinion, he's just the biggest hack in comics. I wasn't really knowledgeable about Bendis's works until he really came to DC. I'd heard about his remarkable Daredevil run, and of course, he's got 20 years of history at Marvel. I'd read some few things like the infamous Iron Man series. I watched some detailed reviews of his Iron Man stuff, but when he came over to DC, I was kind of in that deluded, well, this is the guy that won Best Writer of the Year 2 years in a row, and he revamped Daredevil. And I remember, I wasn't actively in comics. I remember that.
So guys,
like he made such a big statement. But
I just want to say thank you for having me on. I did want to get into a little bit more detail, but we're having some sort of an internet connectivity issue at the house, so I'm going to have to do some more active troubleshooting on that. So I apologize for having to duck out earlier than I planned.
We'll fix
but
it.
you know how it is. Internet goes out and everybody loses their minds in the house.
Absolutely. Hey, man, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll definitely have you on again when your internet's doing
and like
better.
we could tease my project when I get a chance to come back on.
Absolutely. You will get a chance to do that. Later, bro.
So I was just saying that, when he came over, if people have been following me long enough, I was a proponent of his. I was like, give Bendis a chance, where everyone was like, oh my God, Bendis, no. And I was like, it'll be great. It'll be great. He's going to do fine. DC's going to manage him better. He's going to have actual editors over there. And, it started off pretty strong and then just completely started derailing. And once he got into Superman, once his miniseries was over, you could just see the track just going downhill. And you read his books nowadays, and it's literally like the guy just sits down and just writes the first thing that comes to his mind, and it just trails off. He doesn't outline a plot. There is no sense of plot in any of his books, so you can see, hey, if you read Bendis books, I challenge you over, what is there, like 30 plus issues of Superman, to tell me what the plot is of these books. It's just random nonsense, and he relies on this witty, what I call like sitcom speak, like Big Bang Theory.
Bendis speak.
It's Bendis speak. We all call it that, but for him, he doesn't call it like it's. He's constantly relying on that same witty kind of repartee, I think it's the right word. That kind of started with Friends. Friends kind of put that on the scene, but then the sitcoms after, like every sitcom was like, we want to be the next Friends, and they just kept amplifying what that Friends was doing, and now you get to things like and it's just like, that's all it's in the book. It's just a bunch of characters being smarmy and having that speak, and then you get to scenes where like Superman's in one of the latest issues, Superman's running around, he's talking like he's Spider-Man, and you're just like, that doesn't even make sense.
Terrible. When he tells the hot dog sales vendor he loves him.
Yeah.
So I wanted to throw my tablet.
It just it's apparent that he's not even trying. And if you're writing 10 books a month, honestly, that's probably about one comic every 2 days. That's just really impossible for any writer of any caliber to do a good job. You're just crapping out work. You're scribbling out a script super quick. You're not doing multiple drafts. You're just throwing it in. And I think Bendis is just relying on his name. And I think the problem is, in my opinion, someone over there with power, maybe Didio, loves him, and he doesn't have to fear his job. He doesn't have to fear like doing a good job, and so he can just keep doing whatever he's doing. And it's that feeling of like ultra comfortable. A lot of people have probably experienced this in the workplace. You have coworkers who are like, they're so comfortable in their job, they just slack off and don't actually do anything because they know they're never gonna get fired, never get reprimanded. And it's just that's Bendis in a nutshell in his books. Tom King is a different kind of animal. The guy's kind of like trapped in his own head, and I feel like he's writing himself into the books, where Bendis is just not doing anything. He's just pooping out books just to cash in a check, and there's nothing of substance. Tom King is at least trying to make something of substance. It's just pretentious postmodern nonsense, and he needs to go back, like Dylan said, and stop being Alan Moore and focus on being what Tom King used to be, just be himself and make his own statements. But I don't want to go too much off on Bendis.
So I think Bendis did have a story structure, and I think he did have purpose when he started his Batman. I think he wanted to make Superman not look like a very strong, competent hero. I think he wanted to destroy his family. I think he wanted to elevate his wife to above him. And I think he's accomplished all that pretty well, to be completely honest. What do you think about that one, Dylan?
Yeah, I'd agree with all that. It's so weird because, like Ash was saying, like the first 4 issues of the miniseries weren't bad. Like there were some stupid elements to it, like when Jor-El comes to take John and Lois says, "Oh, we can't stop him. Guess I'll go with him." It's like, yeah, you can. You're his parent. It's literally your job is to say yes or no. It's your job. He's your 10-year-old kid. It's not like, oh, he wants to go on a space adventure with former evil grandpa. Can't stop him. You're supposed to be like, yeah or no, but she's like, can't stop him, so I gotta go with him. But yeah, he's just destroyed Superman. He does, like, when he first got there, I was the same way as Ash, where I was I'd heard all the terrible things that he'd done recently. I'd seen some of the stuff with like Riri Williams, but I was like, okay, maybe he's rejuvenated. Maybe he was with Marvel too long and he had written every character under the sun. Now he's with DC. He'll actually try. He's rejuvenated. For the first 4 issues of Man of Steel, it seemed like it. And then he went back to normal Bendis. It was adults talking like teenagers. The story moved. Just there was no like pacing at all. Just the story moved as slow as it possibly could. Nothing made sense. The whole reason
he stretches out books.
Yeah.
Stretches.
The whole reason he aged John up was so he could go into the Legion of Superheroes and have him establish the what's it called, like the Planters, whatever it's called, which didn't need to happen. It's so weird. Like we don't need that. We already had Superman and Legion of Superheroes. We don't need John on the Legion of Superheroes. That was the whole reason he aged him up. It was stupid because literally as soon as he aged him up, he got rid of Jor-El like promptly afterward. Well, actually like 10, which for Bendis is fast, but like 15 issues afterwards, he gets rid of Jor-El without having him do anything. He just places him back in the timeline. Jor-El's gone just like he was originally, and John's aged up so he can be in Legion of Superheroes. So I was like, okay, what's the point of Jor-El?
The dumbest thing about this is for him to join the Legion of Superheroes, they had to come back in time and get him.
Yeah,
just show what happened in 5 years.
Yeah,
you didn't need to age him up. You could just show it happen when he's 18. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you could have told a story 7 years in advance, like flash forward in a story where he's 7 years older and these events happen and the Legion comes and they praise him. Oh, you're the best, John. Come join us. And then after that story's over and he joins the Legion, then flash back to present day. And you could even like then have a crossover where 10-year-old John sees 17-year-old John. He's like, wow, maybe in 7 years that's where I'm going to be. You know, like, but everyone could have had their cake. Everyone would have been happy. But Bendis doesn't like to do that. That's another thing I'm going to touch on Bendis. That guy is like an alpha dog that has to go and piss on everything to mark his territory. This is what he's doing in Superman right now. There's not a stone left unturned on what he does that he changes. Down to where, like, where's the Fortress of Solitude? I got to move it. Everything has to be, my mark has to be put on this. And it's super frustrating once you see this happening and you become aware of it, and then you can't unsee it and you notice it everywhere. And you're just like, stop screwing with the books, Bendis. This isn't your playground, right? Like, your job is to deliver content to the fans. This is corporate, iconic comics. This isn't your Powers book, which then you can go do whatever you want. This is your world. This is DC Comics. You don't own it. These aren't your characters to just F around because you're pals with Dan Didio. Anyways, sorry.
All right, Dion. Did you read Legion of Superheroes Millennium?
I didn't read it per se, but I have watched videos of Legion of Superheroes Millennium, and yeah, it felt off because it just focused on Thor and not the Legion of Superheroes themselves.
It was the worst comic book I read from the big two, without a doubt, this year. What's the worst comic you've read from Brian Michael Bendis? I know you're jumping in on some of those, right?
I wouldn't call Millennium the worst. It was okay. Okay, but honestly, I haven't read any worse comic books this year that I've encountered yet.
You read Event Leviathan? That thing's been terrible.
Well, I don't read it. I don't read it because it didn't really catch my. Well, I didn't say catch my attention. It did, but I wasn't particularly interested in Event Leviathan. I mean, it had an interesting premise of the various spy and intelligence organizations within the DC universe being targeted. So I thought that was an interesting idea. It's just execution was just way off.
Exactly.
It could have been
so
something.
Bendis set up that story for 10 months in Action Comics. The 10 slowest months of Action Comics ever. But by the time they got there, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. He's got all the pieces in play. It's all street level heroes. And Superman's going to be really cool. 4 issues into Event Leviathan, nothing's happened. Isn't it a 5-issue series?
Well, remember, Bendis stretches 1 issue into 6. So we're still only halfway through a single issue of a comic at this point. because it's so decompressed. He's the master of well, I won't say master. That makes it sound like he's good at something. Yeah, and Villain Leviathan, I think, is actually his best current mainstream work currently. Not that that's saying a lot. I enjoyed the first 3 issues. Number 4 seemed to go off the rails, but you take that new Legion book, the Millennium, by comparison, and I agree with you, Wes. That is unbelievable that someone let this go out. It's such an incoherent mess that makes no sense. They got Jim Lee, out of the executive office to draw, what was it, like 8-9 pages or something? 8 or 9 pages. Like, this was supposed to be a big deal book. This wasn't just some little side thing that people ignore. And all eyes should have been on this book, and then they looked at it and said, wait, we're releasing this? What? This isn't Bendis. Do you know that the Legion of Superheroes isn't even in this book? Like, we're calling this Legion of Superheroes, and this is the script you turned in? It's a Rose and Thorn story that doesn't even make sense. It's like 4 vignette stories that don't even seem to have a relation. We don't understand what's going on. Just
So, Pele, before we get back to Birds of Prey, how did Legion of Superheroes Millennium sell out? I know both issues are out now.
I mean, it. I ordered the typical, what the pull requests are, plus I think I did pull request plus 25%, and I think it sold out. But I intentionally ordered it to sell out, because I knew that, it would not hold as far as, anybody's real interest. But it was, let's see. Yeah, it was many days still on the shelves until it finally sold out, even though I only ordered like 8 or 10 copies extra.
Oh, wow. So, Dylan, we got a question for you. How would you properly de-age John if given the chance?
Just get a new writer and act like nothing happened. I'd literally just ignore the previous run. I wouldn't explain at all. Yeah. Oh, thank God it was all a bad dream. Because no one would be upset about that. No one would be like, "Oh, you got to explain why this is now this." No one would be upset. Everyone would just move on and be like, "Oh, cool. We're back to good Superman." Like, put Tomasi back on the book, kick Bendis out, and everyone would be like, "Okay, cool." No one would be upset about it and be mad that, "Oh, you have to explain all this stuff. Why is John now back to this?" Everyone would be like, "Oh, we're back. Everything's good. It was just a nightmare." I wouldn't explain jack shit. I wouldn't do anything. You don't need to explain anything.
Let it go.
Exactly. Like, no one would be mad about that.
Just have it been all like Jonathan Kent wakes up in bed, had a bad dream. And then this was all him explaining to his parents what the dream was.
Yeah, like he wakes up and he's like at a sleepover at Damien's house, so he's like freaking out running through Wayne Manor because it's so huge. And then he's like, "Oh, thank God, it's just a dream. Like, just have that. Everything's fine."
And then Jor-El shows up the next page, and Superman's like, "No, you got to get out of here."
No, that'd be great. Just like, "Nope, you're not taking my son." We avoid
Back
all
to
the
wherever you came
stuff.
from.
Yeah, that would be great.
All right, so let's wrap up the Birds of Prey trailer reaction before we get on the next topic. Dion, did you talk about Birds of Prey?
No, I haven't yet.
All right, what are your
Well,
thoughts on the Birds of Prey trailer?
I'm pretty much concerned. When it officially comes out, because when I saw the trailer, it didn't really feel like the original source material. Yeah, but I guess two saving graces are the hyenas and Ewan McGregor as Black Mask. But it would have been fun if he actually wore the Black Mask.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like when Dennis Hopper played Koopa. He's like, is that really the guy from Super Mario Brothers? It doesn't make sense. He's not even a turtle.
Yeah, but as for everything else, it doesn't really scream Birds of Prey for me. It's just in name only.
Yeah, and one of the cool characters, I was like, "Oh, you're gonna have Cassandra Cain in there." That's not even her, is it?
Yeah. She's like some now like trendy teen or something. It doesn't make any sense.
Some Valley Girl or something.
Yeah. Said
No,
this
that's
like
not really her character though, because the Cassandra came people are familiar with is well Bargorn's successor as Batgirl, and it's because she found a new family with her Bruce and the others. She was able to escape her father David Kane, who's trying to turn her into a human weapon.
Yeah, she has like distinct things that happen to her and like speech patterns and all this stuff, and they just completely wiped out anything interesting about her. And they're like, well, she's an Asian character.
yeah.
That's interesting.
They meet the diversity quota now, and that was basically the whole reason they grabbed her. Because obviously they don't care about her character.
The only character that looks right and feels like they're the actual character that, resemble is Montoya.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Pele, what are your thoughts on Birds of Prey? I know you're a huge comic book movie fan.
I some of the DC films are pretty good. I actually liked Suicide Squad more than most. And that was largely just because of the fact that I thought that they nailed Amanda Waller pretty well.
Absolutely.
She was the standout in the film for me. Just ruthless, cold-blooded. Just they really got that character down. Her performance was fantastic, but and I thought that Harley was decent in the film. But this is not the same Harley. This is more like post-therapy Harley, and I don't want post-therapy Harley. If I'm going to have to sit and watch a villain in a film, portrayed as a hero, I want her to be nuts. And here she just looks like, oh God, what is it? Sort of like a minivan mom who just got a hold of her daughter's makeup. It just doesn't look right and doesn't feel right. It looks like a TV show that they extended out for 2 hours just to try to, to bank on what little bit of, profitability is still left in the character. And no, I'm not going to watch it. I might watch it on streaming after it's been out for a while, but I'm not going to actually waste my time and, go to the theater and see something like this. It's just, it looks dreadful.
Mm-hmm. So I thought, Suicide Squad was actually pretty good for about 40 minutes until they went on to the Black Op and everything. And I was like, this is terrible. There's nothing interesting here. But the DCEU is so weird. They have so many misses and so many bland movies. Even Aquaman, which everyone's like, Aquaman's great. That is pretty average, man. The best DCEU movie I think I've watched now is Shazam. And, maybe the next one is like Man of Steel, maybe. Like, it feels like the DCEU cannot get any traction. They're not putting together like multiple movies that are interesting, the way the MCU did. Ash, do you have a theory on that? Are they just not going to the right source material? Do they not have the right creative direction?
Well, my theory on that is Warner Brothers. I think the problem that DC has is that their films are from Warner Brothers. And let's face it, I mean, when was the last time Warner Brothers was really putting out great movies on a consistent basis? Obviously, they're going to pop out some here and there, whatever. A lot of people give Zack Snyder the flack because he was at least the face of the DCEU.
Terrible choice.
So that's who you point the finger at. It's like, oh, when it fails, that's got to be that guy because that's who we know. And I don't think that was really accurate, from my opinion. I look at it and say, I don't think actually Zack Snyder was the problem here. I honestly think it was a case of, Sony, Sam Raimi thing. And if you get that reference, it's Sam Raimi made 2 great films at Sony, and then all of a sudden they realized, ooh, you're making us a ton of money. Let's stick our fingers in the pot. And then the third movie turned out, like it did. And I think that was the problem right from the get-go. Was Zack Snyder. It's like, here, Zack, you can do these things. He's like, I got all these ideas, and like, great, we got notes, and you're gonna do it this way, and we want to do it this way, and blah 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 blah. and they sit in the background. No one knows to point fingers at them, so Zach gets all the failings. But honestly, when you look at it and you look at the films that succeeded, they're the films that almost were expected to fail. I don't think Warner Brothers expected Wonder Woman to do near what it did. I think that they looked at that film and said, all right, well, it's part of our plan to have a Justice League movie. So here, go do this movie that I forget the girl's name. She was not a big director.
Patty Jenkins.
Yeah, she wasn't a big director. It's like, here, you can go ahead and have this project. Go ahead, have fun, do your film, and they let her kind of do it. And I don't agree with you, Wes. I know you have a different take on Aquaman. I think Aquaman was a really good, fun movie. I hold Aquaman better than most MCU films. And I think, again, James Wan, it's Aquaman. We know no one can make a good Aquaman movie. So James, go have fun with it. And if I'm right, the reason will be now with the second films, because both Aquaman and Wonder Woman turned, from box office rates, at least, whether you like the films or not, did really well, were really well received. So if I'm correct, the next films will have a lot more executive meddling, in the film, and that'll screw it up. Suicide Squad, by comparison, right from the get-go, they hired one of my favorite writer-directors, and I'm blanking on his name at the moment.
David S. Goyer.
Yeah. No, it wasn't.
It was Goyer.
Talking about David Ayer?
No.
David
Ayer.
Ayer,
okay.
Ayer.
Yeah.
David Ayer.
David Ayer. And that guy is a terrific writer. He's got a really good vision. And I had recently seen his film about the World War II, the tank movie, Fury.
That's so good.
And I was like, oh, I'm so hyped. This guy's going to do, if anyone can do Suicide Squad, it's this guy. But they only gave him 6 weeks to write the script. And then at the last mile, when it's all coming down the pipe, the studio execs walked in and said, everyone's really liking this trailer over here. It's getting a lot of traction, but this trailer is not your movie. So we're going to bring these guys that did the trailer in to re-edit your film. And whatever hope that film had just went out the window. And that's where I'm at with this Birds of Prey movie. When I look at this trailer, I look at it, and everything you guys said, I'm pretty much agreeing with. I'm nodding my head and going, yeah, I see that. And I haven't seen the new Joker movie, so obviously I can only go with what I assume the Joker movie is going to be. I hear a lot of people saying it's great, so I'm expecting it's a good film. But what my impression is, I look at this trailer and I go, it's almost like I feel that they had a Suicide Squad-esque movie, and then they looked at this Joker film and said, whoa, at the last minute, let's make it try to be like this. And obviously it can't be like that. It was never intended to be like Todd Phillips' vision. But when I look at that trailer, it's got the same elements that the Joker trailer had, as much as it can. It's trying to put that triangle peg in the round hole. And I was like, oh, it's just not going to work because this is not that film. And I haven't even seen the film, and I know it. It's pretty terrible. That's my take.
Mm-hmm. All right, so are we done with talking about Birds of Prey? You guys want to talk about the DCEU just a little bit before we move on, or are we ready to move on to the next subject? All right, we're moving on to the next subject.
Okay.
Boom. Your silence said everything. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Mike Miller Kickstarter controversy. It's kind of weird. Mike Miller, there's two different platforms. You have Indiegogo, and then you have Kickstarter. And there is a little segment that crosses over between two, but they have two distinct audiences. And one of the new things now is to fund your project on one or the other, and then go do like a new cover or refund it on the other platform, so you can make even more money. You can distribute your books even wider. And Mike Miller took one of his, I believe it was a Lone Star book, over to Kickstarter, and it got kicked back. And he was denied use of the platform because of his portrayal of, I believe, MS-13. Pele, what did you think about this controversy? Is it self-inflicted, or Kickstarter out of their minds? What's going on?
It's Kickstarter. I think that they're bowing to the mob. They have. I guess you could say Kickstarter is kind of like the SJW area where that's where they get their comics published, and Indiegogo seems to be more where everybody else gets their books published through. And I think that if there was any form of bleed over between one and the other, that the line in the sand is being kind of more strongly outlined now. They're just I'm not surprised by it. If anyone else, if it had been anyone else, I probably would think it would have happened a while back. But now they're, now I think that they're just bowing to pressure. They've got certain creators that don't want to be, on the same platform as the anyone even peripherally associated with Comicsgate. So they're just, it's.
Do you think it was pressure from other creators on Kickstarter?
Oh, I have no doubt it was. They just don't want him on their platform. They don't. I mean, if it had been somebody like Zach, Diversity in Comics, or if it had been Van Sciver, or he would have been. They would have been kicked out quite a while back. But anyone who's even peripherally associated, or anybody whom they just disagree with their perspectives, I think
Zach
they're just going
got denied on Kickstarter to begin with.
Yeah, I mean that tells you everything right there. It's just it's an ideological split, and I just don't I don't think that there's really. I guess you could see it, try to see it from a different perspective on that, according to, no, you can't. No, there's just no way to look at it. It's just ideological differences.
Mm-hmm. So what did you think about it, Ash?
I didn't follow it really closely, but I think Pele is touching on some subjects. I've actually been a big Kickstarter person for quite a few years now. I just looked at my page here to check it. I have 76 backed projects in my history. So I've been around the block when it comes to crowdfunding for years. I was big into the board game hobby before I got back into comics. That was kind of my deal. I never really thought about kickstarting comics. It was always weird to me. And I do think that Zach's campaign sort of put on Kickstarter's radar the whole CG movement of comics, and it sort of like made them aware of it. So now they're looking for it, and I do think that there's evidence just based on what I'm seeing with all these denials from various projects, that there's a culture war issue going on there, and they're making their virtue statements to be like, we're not going to accept your evil books. And it's like, it's not evil, you know nothing about it, but it's like, well, yeah, but people that we like said that they don't like you, so you're canceled. And it goes back to the cancel culture argument from before, where and Kickstarter's always been sort of that high and mighty. One of the things that made Kickstarter better than Indiegogo, I know it's weird to say this because we talk about comics and Indiegogo is the way to go, but honestly, outside of comics, Kickstarter, at least for years it was this way, was way better because they curate their projects better. Where Indiegogo sort of lets anyone and everyone publish, put stuff up there. Kickstarter's like, we have to approve this. And what it did, it was kind of like the Nintendo stamp of approval. It made the projects as a whole a lot better. And if you didn't know about maybe the internal politics that are going on, you didn't see the projects that were being unapproved, it was easy for someone like me to walk by and be like, I don't know. I just know what's available. It looks all good. I don't know about stuff getting canceled. And then fast forward to today of the culture war, and now it's a different story. Mike Miller, he's got a big mouth. I love the guy. I think he's a great guy, but he puts himself out there to basically allow his enemies to have marks against him, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, Mike tries to be edgy. That's one of the things he uses to market his books.
Yeah.
I do think that came back and bit him in the end. Dylan, what are your thoughts on this one?
Till you said it, I didn't know about this because I didn't really follow. I don't follow a lot of the drama. So, yeah, if that's the case, just because he depicted MS-13 bad, who cares? Why are they upset about that? Like, if someone was chopping up white supremacists, no one would care because those are bad guys. No one would be like, oh, that's representation of all white people, and so you're being racist against white people. No, it's a specific bad group of white people that they're killing. Same with this. It's a specific bad group of Hispanic guys that's going to MS-13. Like, I don't get why people are upset about that, but that's how it is. And you have Indiegogo, so you have another platform. It's not like, oh, this is the one and only place that you can go. You have an Indiegogo, so that's good. But yeah, kicking off a Kickstarter, I don't really get it. I don't get why Kickstarter would do that. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Just more sort of cancel culture. Doesn't. The thing was, Zach didn't make any sense though, because Jawbreakers had nothing political whatsoever at all. I know there's a lot
of pressure from other creators that said if you put him on your platform, we won't use your platform, and you're going to lose all this money.
That's so stupid.
So, I do want to say shout out to Renault, $5 super chat. It's a list of creators who are blacklisted without consideration. There were 2 fake cyberfog campaigns that were approved. This was all politics. That is a very good point. They have approved multiple projects that are actually fake campaigns. I don't know. It's a weird subject. I know, like I said, Mike kind of puts himself out there and likes to be edgy to promote his brand and stuff like that. And I do think it kind of came and bit him in the end. But the problem is that you can only have so many Indiegogos live at one time. So I believe he has 2 of them live right now, so he can't do any more. So if he wants to do any more crowdfunding, he needed another platform. So I'm assuming this is it's bad for his bottom line and potentially harmful for his family. Pele, what are your thoughts on this, man?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had somebody talking to me over here. What was the question? I'm sorry. I apologize.
Haley, what are you doing? Paying attention to the customers and your employees. We're talking Mike Miller.
Actually, I was talking to my wife. I'm back home right now, but yeah, Mike.
My bad.
I thought you were going to talk to somebody else. I had one of my earplugs out, and I was listening to it. I'm sorry.
No worries, mate. So, did you have any thoughts on Mike Miller and the controversy? Was it self-inflicted? Is it political?
No, it's not self-inflicted. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's they have no problems. They have no problems depicting bashing the fash, and stuff like that. White people and quote incels who do wrong. They have no problem with comics that depict that. They post Kwanzaa, they sell Kwanzaa's comics, but if it comes down to, we're going to show the darker side of, MS-13 or something like that, where, somebody beating up MS-13 members who are, arguably the worst gang. I think weren't they called the worst gang in the United States? But with a rich history of murder and mayhem and everything you could possibly imagine, they're bad guys. This is what heroes do. They fight bad guys. So I just don't. You can't have depictions of bad guys anymore, or if they're not white bad guys, you can't depict them. It's sad. It's really it's another ideological purity test. It's just pathetic.
The problem though is here. Yeah, right at the end you nailed it. I think the problem is Mike Miller is the bad guy. To their eyes, it's harder for us to understand because we see it through our lenses. But from their eyes, like, Mike Miller is a villain. He is he needs to be eradicated. He's the bad guy. You can't. What he's doing is making poison for the kids. Like, that's how they see things. Like, this is like touching way back on the beginning of the show, Pele, when you talked about your thoughts on the new Birds of Prey film and your disgust for the love of the villain and stuff. And it's like, because to these guys, they're not villains. we see and go, yeah, oh my God, these are villains. They're terrible people. But to these people, the other side of the culture war, look at it and go, oh yeah, I could be like Harley Quinn. That's what I would do. I would teach all these incels lessons, all these bad people like Mike Miller trying to make their comics. It's weird. It's you know, it's like almost like mental disorder. I'm not. It's not, but I don't know. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's all part of an agenda. I know, Dion, you're aspiring artist and stuff. Does this make you kind of, think about your online presence and things like that? Or are you going to have things associated with you in the future and platforms aren't going to be available when you're ready to go live with a project of yours? Do you think about this stuff?
Every now and then, yeah. Yeah, and I think like Kickstarter and Indiegogo are platforms that creators can use to get their works out there. And as for what's going on with Mike Miller, I think Kickstarter they shouldn't have kicked him out. No, because Lone Star is just finding a specific group of people. He's not making like egregious caricatures of his Hispanics. He's just drawing a scene where his hero is fighting against a group of villains that made up a minority of people that are bad. So I just think it's unnecessary. And although there are some genuinely good. So there's generally good projects in Kickstarter that are worth looking into, but I do disagree with like how they pick and choose creators based on like politics and ideologies, which they shouldn't do. They should be neutral, and people miss. And when you brought up the cancel culture topic, it brings back there's this attack of diversity of thought and dissension of opinion.
Oh yeah, it's all to make people scared to say what their opinions are or be honest about who they are and what they think, because now we can't just call you a whateverist or a thing like that. Now we can affect your bottom line. We can deplatform you. You can't make money. You won't be able to make your house payment. And those those are huge issues. When you get older and you have kids like Mike Miller, he has a lot of kids and stuff. He has to make money, and they're affecting his bottom line as a way to keep him silent. And it's terrible to think about that way.
Yeah, and this goes from all sides of the island, not just like those from like those who lean too far into the left, but also those who lean too far into the right. Right, it affects everybody, liberals, conservatives, and everything else in between.
I didn't like to James Gunn either when he was, I didn't like the tweets that he had. I thought they were offensive and I thought they were very distasteful. I was like, they shouldn't fire him. If he's doing a good job. I
don't know. If you're Disney and you have a guy who's talking about child rape.
Yeah, we're talking. This wasn't just one-offs either. This was like
didn't think it was
thousands.
Because I don't like cancel culture at all.
I understand you don't like it at all, but that's a little bit of a different matter. Having a different idea is different from years of really
edgy jokes,
obsessive child rape fantasies.
They were jokes. No one's ever proven that he wanted to do any of that. A fantasy indicates that's like you're fantasizing about it.
Yeah, but if you talk about it over 1,000 times, isn't that kind of a little bit much?
I don't know. I'm not in his mind.
People the wrong impression, though.
Well,
and they won't take it as jokes.
I'm with you on that, Wes. I think it was
an issue.
I don't like cancel culture at all.
I don't like cancel culture, but I saw it as an issue if Disney has a brand and it's a child-friendly brand, and James was contradictory to that. And I don't see him getting canceled. He immediately got a job at Warner Brothers.
Well, he's got a job at Disney now. He's doing the next
I know he's back. I know he's back. But I mean, when they did the initial firing, Warner Brothers immediately snapped him up to do Suicide Squad. And no one was like calling for him to be like, no, he should never do movies again.
That's not true. There were
Okay,
plenty of people
No.
calling.
There
for
might
it
be
to never
people.
do
There's no
movies
one in
again.
my circles. that
And
are
I was
doing that.
saying, don't do it because they're just going to do it to you too. Like, you shouldn't promote any of this. That's my thoughts. What were you thinking, Dylan?
I was saying I agree with you on that. To where, like, yes, Disney has the right to fire him, of course, but it was just jokes. It was a lot of like really weird jokes. But at the end of the day, there's never any proof of him doing anything. It was just jokes. You're not inside his mind, so you can't really say if he's into that or anything. It's just jokes. Like, there are plenty of comedians who make way more egregious jokes than that. But yeah, I don't. It's like they had the right to fire him if they wanted to. They did, and then WB hopped on. They're like, okay, I guess we'll get him. Some of their actors even went on strike. Dave Bautista was like, I'm not going to do it unless you use his script, and so then they got him back. But yeah, I don't like. I'm not the biggest James Gunn fan or anything, but I wasn't the biggest fan of everything that was happening during that, of people trying to cancel him. But at the end of the day, he didn't get canceled, so that was
There
good.
wasn't even a call to cancel him. There was just, hey, look at what he's did.
I saw
Nobody
people
said,
trying
hey,
to.
you need to fire this guy because he did this. It was just something that was being shown. No, it wasn't.
Bailey, you are being disingenuous because it's
No,
your
I'm not.
side.
I'm
Yes,
not,
you
because
are.
I remember actually reading the article. I said,
You
look at
think I
this.
don't
This is a
read
guy
it?
working at Disney. There was not a call, you need to fire this guy. There was just
It was Mike
No, there
Cernovich
wasn't.
talked about it for a fucking month.
not until after they fired him. Nobody said anything about that.
Bull crap, Pele. Go back and go search again, man.
Oh, you're
You're saying what I don't like cancel culture unless it works for my side. I'm saying I don't like cancel culture.
No, I didn't say that either. That's
What?
funny.
Oh, if it's James Gunn, he's a leftist. Let's cancel
No,
that
I didn't
guy.
say that. That's hilarious. If a person on the right had 1,000 different tweets talking about child molestation as being a wonderful thing, and this is funny, ha ha ha. Hey, this boy is, I'm not even going to get into some of the things that he said.
But
All my
Yeah,
point
it
is,
was-
is that
he
Dylan.
for
This is the same company. He was making movies for the same company that does cartoons for little children.
Yeah,
I
my
mean,
point.
come on.
There are 1,000 people that work for the Disney Corporation that do things that parents might not like. And
Yeah,
I don't want him to be fired for it.
he
their
was,
personal-
and there wasn't a call to fire him for it. There was just
absolutely-
there was a. I remember the things coming out. It was Mike Cernovich. He came out with the post and he said, "This is what James Gunn has done. Does Disney want this associated with their brand?"
And then the mob hopped in and said you have to fire him. That's why they
No, they
fired him.
didn't. No, they didn't.
I know at least Ethan Van Sciver and all his supporters were calling for him to be fired. I remember that.
Absolutely.
After he was fired, they said, "Oh, that's a
No.
good thing." Yes, they did.
Well, Disney did fire him pretty quickly before most people.
That's
became
exactly
aware of
what
it.
I'm saying. There wasn't a
what
call to
Dylan-
fire him. Disney
what-
fired him after all the stuff came out. Mike Cernovich
Yes,
came out with that. Everybody started talking about, does Disney really want this associated with their brand? And then Disney fired him within like 4 or 5 days after that, and everybody was going, "Yay, James Gunn was fired." And
Hasn't Mike Miller had anti-LGBTQ tweets and stuff? Does Kickstarter want that associated with their brand?
Not really.
no, he hasn't.
Well, I don't know. He had a pretty inflammatory tweet there about Pride Month.
That's a
Saying
different
pride is
subject
a sin is
altogether.
not- It's not quite the same about is joking about child
Because-
rape.
because
That's a really nasty piece of false equivalence there, Wes.
I'm not talking about them being the exact same thing. I'm saying Kickstarter can look at that and say, that's anti-LGBTQ. I don't want that associated with the platform. Then no, we won't platform you. It's the
That's
same
not
thing.
even the same classification, though.
It's the same action.
No, it's not.
Okay. Chase, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Really good to see all of you. Oh, this is exactly the topic that I'm excited to talk about, actually, because I have I'm kind of siding with Wes on this, honestly. If you saw in the chat, I kind of mentioned, look, I am against all cancel culture, just like Wes is saying. I do not think it's okay.
I am too.
Yeah, I think it is just absolutely abhorrent behavior to try to cancel people's ability to make money. But at the same time, I'm sitting here looking at Lone Star, Heart of the Hero #1. Look, I have nothing against Mike Miller. I like the guy. You know, I have very similar views about some things as he does. You know, specifically about God. You know, but I'm looking at this and I say, I'm going to read this directly from his book. So it says, that should give enough permanent nerve damage to keep you from adding any more hash marks to your collection. Essay in quotation marks. And he's saying this. So he's using a Spanish word as a derogatory term. Look, hey, I understand. I don't think that that's racist, but 100% I can absolutely see. Right. But I can absolutely see how someone can see that as racist. I was just talking to a couple people about this, and I can't help but look at this from the other perspective, and see that
the guy's Hispanic that he's talking to. I'm Hispanic.
I know, but it's
essay is buddy.
I know.
It's like saying, "Hey, buddy," it's like if somebody from a different culture looks at you and says, "Hey, buddy, how you doing?"
Yeah.
It's no, that's not. I think that if to consider that to be racist, and looking at it as a Latino person, to look at this as something like essay as being racist would require a great deal of animosity on your part towards that person to begin with. You'd have to be looking for something to be offended by, I think.
I can agree with that perspective.
Looking to be offended. We know that.
Well, part of the problem is, too, you get into the situation with the culture war, and this is something that, going back to Orwell, he outlines in his books, where you make everything offensive, you make all these wrong speak words, and now you can't say anything. Everything, because there's going to be someone, and that's where we get into this situation with the essay, right? Because it's not, like, I'm agreeing with Pele here, it's not a big deal, but because another group of people insist on it being a big deal, then other groups of people listen to that group and go, oh, yeah, well, I don't want people to be offended, and you're saying that offends people? Well, then that's just, and they shouldn't be offended. And they had no dog in the fight until the first group of people started insisting it was offensive, and then they jumped in on it now, too, because someone else said, and it becomes the culture war, and it's stupid, and people should just be allowed to say what they want to say and look at intentions and not words. Words are just sounds.
People should be allowed to disagree without having their livelihoods put on the line.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's what I think.
I agree, but I also want to say one thing. Companies should be able to determine who represents them or not.
Well, yeah.
Because the pendulum can easily go the other way around, where Disney is not allowed to, Disney, Dylan had said, but there's plenty of comedians that are even more egregious than Gunn. Well, is Disney supposed to hire those guys now?
Right.
No, Disney needs to make its own decisions. And that's why I supported Disney, because it was just their decision. If it had gone beyond that, people trying to say, no, you can't work in films anymore. You can't go to Warner Brothers, which you're right. I'm sure some people did. Zero support for that. I never wanted to see
I'm looking
canceled.
I'm looking at the Cernovich tweets right now, where he revealed James Gunn's previous comments, and there's nothing about you need to fire this guy. What he's saying, that's what I remembered. This is this someone that you want associated with your brand? This is what they posted.
Call for firing. What are you talking about?
That's not a call for firing. It's a call of awareness to this guy's really got some nasty stuff in his wheelhouse. You sure you want to be associated with it?
Sure you want to be associated with this? So someone that went to Kickstarter. So somebody that went to Kickstarter and said, "Hey, Kickstarter, are you sure you want to be associated with Mike Miller? Look at these tweets over here. These are anti-LGBTQ. You sure you want to be associated?
But they're
with
not
them?
Anti-LGBTQ.
To you, they are. To you, they're
not. No,
maybe to someone else. Listen, let me make my point. Let me
have to have an axe to grind to begin with.
Let me make my point.
So I was already talking and you jumped in.
It's my show. So Disney says,
okay.
Disney says it's our prerogative to fire him, whether he's doing a good job or not, because we don't like what's in his Twitter. Kickstarter can go and say, it's our prerogative not to platform Mike Miller because what's in his Twitter.
They can.
They're a business.
Okay.
And I think
thing
they're
is,
both wrong.
the thing though is Kickstarter's not being legitimate. They're not being consistent, right? So
they platform that has similar to what Mike Miller's done.
Well, here's the thing. They someone else pointed out. I think it was, I forget who it was. So I don't mean to not give credit, but someone pointed out how Cyberfrog was not allowed to be on Kickstarter. They got denied, but then Kickstarter approved 2 fake Cyberfrog Kickstarters. So it was absolutely not about the issue of what it was. It was all about, the politics and canceling the person. If Disney had fired James Gunn, but then there was another guy who was like, oh, look, it's James Gunn's best friend who's making this other film, and he was on those tweets too, but they didn't do anything. Like, there would be that hypocrisy that you would say, and Kickstarter's doing the hypocrisy thing. If Kickstarter was making a legitimate stand on policies, things, I would have more credence.
And also, I think that there's a huge difference between saying, we're not going to associate with your brand anymore. We're going to pull all of our projects and we're never going to have projects with you ever again. That line of attack, as opposed to, have you seen what this person is doing? Are you sure you want to be associated with them? There's a very distinct difference between those two things.
It all depends on what
I'm going to pull everything, all of my business away from you, and I'm going to make sure other people pull their business away from you, and look at what this person is doing. There's a distinct difference between those two things.
Hey, I'm glad you're okay with it. I don't like any of it.
I didn't say I'm okay with it. I'm saying that I see that there's a distinct difference.
Mm-hmm. Hey, that's fine. I think we've all made our points. I think we've had a nice heated debate. It was lots of fun. I hope the viewers enjoyed it. It's time to move on to another topic. Let's talk about something more fun, something I think we're all enjoying right now. Let's move on to, where is it? House of X number 6. How did everybody enjoy that? Gateway into comics. Chase, what's your point first? And I'll be right back. I got to check on the baby.
I haven't read it yet, so I'm going to go for a bit so I don't get anything spoiled. I have the issue, but I haven't read it yet.
All right, I'll let you know when I DM.
All right, sounds good. DM me.
Yeah, I absolutely love this issue. I thought it was incredible. But every issue's been great. This is just, and it kind of, like I was saying, this kind of it's coming to a close, the prequel. And I think a lot of people that are kind of down on these issues are saying, oh, there's not enough action. I see a lot of people saying that, but look, these are prequel issues. All of these are just set up for the main continuity, which I feel like all of it has been very important. And every single issue has been, well, except for one, has been above my expectations and just really driven it home for me.
Yeah, you can really feel the difference. It's pretty amazing to me that they're not more skeptical and not more, watchful regarding Apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
He's not happy.
Yeah.
He is not happy. He's one of those, only the strongest will survive.
Yeah.
And we're not going to provide shelter to the weak.
That's right.
And he's like, he is not happy that there's not going to be, a reckoning of sorts where they, filter out the weaker mutants in humanity. He's not happy about that. Okay, he didn't really care much about not killing humans. He's like, whatever. They're bugs. I'll not go out of my way to squash humans. That's fine. But he says all mutants need to be the strongest that they can be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, at some point, and it probably won't take very long, but at some point he's going to make a power move.
Yes, and you know, I look at this whole council that they formed, and I get the creeps. I get the creeps immediately because I see Sinister sitting right next to Apocalypse, sitting right next to Storm, and it's troubling and it bothers me. You know, I really have a hard time with Sebastian Shaw. You know, he's a rapist. He's horrible. He's a rapist and a murderer. He did horrible things to Jean Grey. And I love her. And but by the way, this is the first issue where it actually shows the miniskirt from the previous Jim Lee art, which is amazing. That really makes me happy because, you know, Jonathan Hickman keeps talking about that on social media, the miniskirt, and making comments about it that are just, his social media presence is hilarious. But yeah, I'm troubled about the council. I think that this Red Queen is actually going to be Kitty Pryde, based upon. Yes, I do. Oh. I do. But that's
just a point of inference here. That it's actually labeled in the book as Red King.
Yeah.
So it still could be Kitty Pryde, I suppose, and defy our expectations. But it is. I do
also have this, one of my variants for this issue. It says Foreshadowing Variant Edition, and it does have a picture of Omega Red on the cover of it. So there's that.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, Omega Red was featured also in one of the books. I mean, that Hickman made a specific panel when he was introducing some of the mutants that were going to come over. Omega Red did get one of his own panels, just like Gorgon did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everyone, to my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, but each of those panels, except for Omega Red so far, those characters have been specific either as part of the council or as part of one of the captains.
Mm.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a king.
Yeah.
I don't think Hickman's going to play this whole thing like, I said king, but it's really queen. I tricked you. That seems like too simple for Hickman. Like and Kitty Pryde doesn't really make much sense to be on the council, to be honest.
I know, it's just my hope, honestly.
Well, here's why. Whoever it's going to be, it's going to be someone that Emma Frost wants. Because remember, she made that power play to get the third seat.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever it is, it's someone that Emma Frost wants.
It's going to be somebody that Emma Frost can manipulate.
Either manipulate or is allies with, or, you know. So, because at first I was like, well, maybe it's going to be like Onslaught, or maybe it's the Shadow King. I was like, no, none of those people fit with Emma Frost. Like, Omega Red doesn't fit either.
Okay, I just want to say shout out to Nailo from Japan, $10 super chat. We all need to be thinking critical. I agree. I'm sorry I missed this during the debate. This actually came through a little bit ago. I hope you're still with us, and thank you very much for supporting the channel. Nalo, thank you very much. All right, back to you, Ash.
Oh, I was just talking. We were talking about the Red King situation. The conversation kind of went there, and I interjected about that it said king and not queen, because some of the big theories right now are Kitty Pryde, which seems kind of the most obvious. Which
it was actually already spoiled.
Is it actually officially spoiled? Like that's.
Yeah, if you take the digital version of Powers of 10 number 5 and you like copy and paste the page, you can see all the names, and hers is the 12th name.
Oh. Huh.
Not everybody knew that?
No.
I did.
That's cool.
So, I'm sorry, I missed that. Who is it? Who's the one?
Kitty Pryde.
That's exciting because that's who I wanted, because she's my favorite X-Man right now, because I'm rereading all the Claremont issues, and her and I have the same personality type. She was written to be an ENFP on the Myers-Briggs scale. So just throwing that out there. Anyway, I like Kitty Pryde.
Kitty Pryde makes the most sense because she's actually captaining the Marauders, which is going to be like the mobile arm of the Hellfire Corporation.
Huh? Who's writing Marauders?
Jerry Duggan.
Oh, that's going to be neat, I think.
You remember the conversation between Charles and Emma Frost? He says, I need you to be the legitimate face of distribution for the Krakoan drugs.
Yeah.
Because I don't want our secrets to get out. well, I need Sebastian Shaw to run the black market part so we can sneak into countries that aren't willing to accept them and work on the black market and get mutants out into Krakoa. And that's what the Marauders are doing. Sounds amazing.
Well, so Wes, you kind of missed this. This is interesting. I got a couple variants of this latest issue of House of X, and I'm sitting in front of my foreshadowing variant edition, is what it says right under the Marvel tag. And it has a picture of Omega Red coming out of a portal into Krakoa. And I thought that was interesting. And that's what made me say that maybe it was going to be Omega Red, but I'm really glad it's not, honestly.
I was kind of hoping that it would be Scott.
Huh. Okay.
Well, he's already got a place on the council because he's the captain commander.
Yeah.
He's like the general guy, so he's not really a part of the legislature.
And I like him. You're talking about the Myers-Briggs. I like him because he's an ENTJ.
Ooh, those guys are hardcore.
Which is me.
Oh, cool.
That's my
one of my best friends is an ENTJ.
That's great. You guys are awesome. Yeah,
But,
y'all are intense, man. Y'all really make up your mind about something.
Kind of obsessive.
I dig it. Yeah, that's cool.
The new Zodiac. It's funny.
Well, Ash, I know you say that, but there's some real validity to this, unlike horoscopes, in my opinion. I think that's all hogwash.
I'm just poking fun. It's
Yeah,
funny though. It's become a much more people exchange. What's your classification? It used to be like I'm a Sagittarius. Now it's I'm an ENTJ. Like
Exactly.
just sign of the times.
Yeah.
Well, at least there's like actual substance psychology
yeah,
behind.
I'm not mocking it.
No, I think you should mock it. It is overhyped.
It is.
To a degree. Yeah.
So what did everyone think of House of X #6? I was a little disappointed, but now that I think about it, it's actually pretty cool because that should be the very last issue of the story that leads into Dawn of X. It's the government's established. They've laid out the first judgment. The first 3 laws are enacted. Sovereignty is granted, and the whole mutant nation is celebrating, Endor style, right? You got the fireworks and everybody's tossing beers around. There's weird googly eyes going back and forth. It's literally leads directly into Dawn of X. But Powers of 10 #6 comes back next week to shatter all of our hopes and dreams with some huge reveal, and I can't wait for it.
Me too.
Yeah, the other shoe is going to drop.
Oh
yeah.
What do you guys think that shoe is going to be? Because I know what my thoughts are. Dion, do you have a theory on what that shoe is going to be on Powers of 10 #6 besides the phalanx stuff? Probably.
I think we're probably gonna get finally a reveal of Moira's 6th life because it wasn't intentionally blocked. So there's a possibility that we will finally see her 6th life and how this ties into this new dream she, Charles, and Max have developed after she showed both of them all of her 9 lives.
Yeah, interesting.
That's awesome.
Well, also, if you look at the little timeline, she's kind of normal up to life 5. They skip life 6, and then all of a sudden she's psychotic. So something exceptionally dramatic happens there. Like she started murdering all of her Trask family. She joined up with Apocalypse. All hell broke loose after that happened. She extremized Charles Xavier. Like something crazy happened in that lifetime.
Here's something to consider too about Moira. Like she relives all these lives. So if we are currently in Moira X timeline, all these people, except for Moira, this is their first life, right? They didn't experience all those previous timelines, but Moira did. So the Moira we're seeing is the Moira that aligned with Apocalypse and murdered a bunch of people. She is the person that became the assassin and killed all of her Trask. She's still all those things. And it's something that is kind of in the background. And I didn't even think about it until Wes started talking about this. And I'm like, oh my God, what if during this whole time, her mind got twisted, and it's like you set out to become the hero, but you end up becoming the villain. What if all of these experiences and all these different paths and everything she's been doing has messed her up and she's not the Moira we think?
Well,
I know it's really wild outside.
No, that falls right into my theory. So when we finally see Moira in this last issue, it's the first time I think we've seen her, since House of X #2, and she's in the no place, and that's the only place that Charles is comfortable at without his helmet on, and they won't show his face.
Mhm.
And I'm pretty certain there's something wrong with him. He's been corrupted, possibly by Cassandra Nova, and maybe Sinister. I'm not really sure, but I think that's going to be one of the big reveals in the next issue is what is actually wrong with Charles.
Well,
I hope so.
Another thing about Charles is when this whole thing started, one of the promo pieces of art was a picture of Charles like as a statue sitting on a like Lincoln Memorial style, sitting in a chair, and it was like a memorial, as if
Like he died for
as if he's dead. Yeah, right. Like he died for the cause. So, are we going to see going forward? Like we're not going to have a Charles Xavier, maybe? Because I haven't seen him in any promo stuff for the Dawn of X.
In Marauders #4, he's on that solicitation, I believe.
Okay.
It's Marauders or it was X-Force. I think it was Marauders.
Do you think this ties in to that portion that Hickman leaked out on one of the white pages that Charles Xavier has taken this sort of like mind dump? I forget how they explained it, but like he
Uploaded the legacies.
The mind transfer?
Yeah, the legacies.
Absolutely think those were corrupted. I think that's how they've done whatever's been done to him. That's my thought.
There's so
Pele,
much going on.
Bailey, did you have any theories on that? What do you think the big reveal is going to be?
I think that the big reveal is going to be that Charles is either not Charles or is Charles and he's twisted. Something's wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
And also probably get a little bit of a preview of what Apocalypse is thinking. And maybe something going forward where he's trying to, form background alliances.
So it's interesting because Apocalypse had one of the more impactful scenes at the very end while everyone's celebrating and Charles and Eric are overwatching and everything. And Apocalypse is kind of off on his own. You can see he's thinking, like he's pondering, like he knows this isn't the end or any of that. He's like, this is just the beginning. We haven't won anything. At least that's the way I took it. How did you take that one, Pele?
Yeah, that's he's like, looking at it and he's saying these fools are celebrating when they've done nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the vibe that I'm getting from that, and he's like, they're very satisfied with the little things that they've done here, but they don't mean anything in the broader scheme of things. And he's I think that the kind of the impression that I've got reading so far is that Apocalypse is eyeing it as his own his own recruitment tool for his army. And
because you would have thought he'd be the one celebrating the most because this is literally always been his dream, right? A united mutant nation that wants to take over the world.
But he doesn't want to be associated with the weak mutants. He wants them dead just as much as anyone.
Yeah, isn't that more of a Magneto philosophy?
But ratcheted up to about 11.
No, not what you were saying, Pele, but what Wes was saying, the united mutant population. That seems more of a Magneto thing.
Yeah.
And then the survival of the fittest thing was Apocalypse. He doesn't care about united. He cares about the strong evolution.
Yeah.
Is it possible that I've been going with the Sinister theory with Charles Xavier, but is it possible that Xavier's maybe an Omega Sentinel?
Oh, damn.
Oh,
that's pretty cool.
What do you think?
that would be insane.
Chase?
Oh, that's wild. I don't think that's going to be the case, but that's a really great idea. That's pretty far out there, but I like it more than a lot of the things I've heard.
One of the things I was just thinking of listening, I listen to you guys talk and you expound your theories and stuff, and it like opens my mind to different perspectives.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was thinking about as I hear you guys is like the and Wes brought my attention to this, the three kind of pillars, the three threats that the mutants are facing, the machines themselves and the phalanx. But what if one of the ways of dealing, because remember Moira's tried 9 times and the machines always win.
Right.
And what's that old saying? If you can't beat them, join them.
Oh man.
So what if the way the key to mutant survival is, okay, we'll just be the machines too. We'll be mutants and machines.
Wow.
We'll create the machines before man does.
That's what I would do.
But we'll be the machine. Like mutant. Why would Sentinels aren't going to exterminate themselves?
Right.
I don't know. It's just one of those outside the box ideas that came to my head.
That's pretty wild. Specifically, thinking of it from a bionics perspective, like why not incorporate some metallic arms into your whole repertoire of mutant existence or microchips in the brain or whatever,
And you got this latest issue, which is like Hickman sending up a neon sign and pointing at where Charles Xavier's in the no place, and you don't ever see his face. Mm-hmm. What is Hickman hiding, right? And my thing is, so I try to imagine all these possibilities, like, oh, you turn around and get the face reveal, and like half of Charles Xavier's head is like cybernetic or something, like something.
Or he's got Mr. Sinister's eyes.
Or he's got. I was thinking he had the diamond on his forehead, like. Because you don't see the top half of his head, so the diamond thing was like, oh, I bet he's going to be something like that. But then I was
that's what I was thinking for a while, is that Xavier is actually Sinister.
Yeah,
and he uses Cerebro to amplify his very low level of telepathy.
Or what if it's the technovirus?
That is definitely a possibility, because when Cypher touches the leaves the first time going on there, you saw the leaves change.
Yes, and that's not a rant. Like Hickman doesn't do anything just nonsensical. If this were a Bendis comic, we'd be like, whatever.
It very much could be. That's another idea I've had, is that Krakoa is actually running Charles, but once he took Cerebro off, it kind of changed that idea.
That's wild.
Do we think anything about Cerebro still? Is there a possibility that Cerebro is not what we think it is?
That's a good theory, too.
We saw in the Powers of X storyline that, like, 1,000 years in the future, I think it was the librarian.
It was the elder.
Or the elder had a helmet that looked remarkably similar to that Cerebro thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it did. And then there's also the tower that's on Krakoa. We see that in the X2 and the X3 timelines. There's always that tower.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you brought that to my attention. I didn't notice that, Wes, the tower part. I feel like
the tower is the antenna, is what I always figured.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like I need to go back and reread this whole thing, but I'm waiting for issue 12, or I call it issue 12, to come out before I do that.
Me too. I'm going to read it all again.
That I'm just like, what?
I've read it twice now, and this is going to be my third time when this next issue comes out. And then I think I'm going to make a video summarizing the time jumps and how amazing this storytelling has been, going back and forth and revealing small things throughout, because that's my focus. I like to look at these stories on why is the writing good, because I'm obsessed with that since I've, mostly written short stories my whole life, as far as writing goes. But dude, this is the most masterfully written thing that I've seen in since, I don't know, forever, man. It's pretty crazy. From a writing perspective, this is just a masterpiece.
Have you read Black Monday Murders?
No.
Okay, that's also Jonathan Hickman from Image Comics.
Okay.
And if you really like this story and the way it's composed and everything, I think you will like that one probably even more.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Thanks for that recommendation. I'll have to jump on it. I wanted to kind of give my thoughts about my theory about what's going on here. I loved what Dion said, and I think it's closer to what's going to happen. I've been watching very carefully my own confirmation bias when it comes to my perspectives about storytelling. And here's what I want to happen. I want Charles Xavier to have something wrong with him. But the more that I look at this from both perspectives, and I kind of try my hardest to use my empathy and come at it from the other side of the spectrum, I look at it and I say that it's more possible in my mind that Hickman is writing this from a perspective of a emotionally damaged Xavier, that he has witnessed the slaughter of his species for 10 lifetimes at this point. And he's done. And he's just simply adapting his mindset to be more of a survivalist perspective. That's what I think is going to occur, but that's not what I want to occur, if that makes sense.
Do you think that's healthy for the series?
I don't.
As an ongoing.
I don't think it's healthy for the series, but I think that's what may happen.
Yeah,
honestly.
that's where my camp is too. I'm just like, I think it's going there, and
I do too.
I got the willies.
I do too.
I think they didn't show his face for a reason. It's look, it could be to throw people off. I thought it was to symbolize that there is something wrong with him.
I hope you're right, Wes. I'm putting like all my, I'm putting all that money on that one space on the roulette wheel. Like there, it's got to be that. Please.
I think the biggest reveal is going to be, like Dion said, Moira's 6 timeline, though. Honestly, yeah.
I also think the phalanx thing will be very important.
Yeah,
because I don't see that being introduced anymore after this. Oh,
yeah.
I want to bring this one up because this was in my comments. My commenters are the best, and they always have the wildest, coolest theories. And one of them theory was, what was her name? Percival. That was the one in the X2 timeline, correct? That was like kind of like
with the sword.
Yes.
Yes, that's Percival. Yep.
So she died in a singularity, which is a wormhole, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a black hole, which is wormhole.
Yes, and when he explains what wormholes are and what they do, you can travel through time in them. And he thought that we will see Percival because she got pulled into a wormhole, and that's actually a tunnel to another time. How cool would that be?
I like that. Yeah, that
would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
but I think
too.
she might be overpowered in like the current X. I mean, because she's like a combination of like 6 crazy mutants. I mean, she's got Colossus ability.
She can
got Magic's
phase.
ability.
Mm-hmm.
She kind of would like obsolete other characters almost. Like, I don't know.
I just thought it was a good idea. Like, why
it is a cool idea? Like
that people like if you're never going to use them again. But there's the perfect explanation because she got sucked into a wormhole, which is actually a tunnel to another time, is the way Hickman explains it. At least that's the way I kind of read it.
Well, he also explains the singularities. I didn't see him talking too much about time, and Hickman has been on the record saying there won't be time travel, which could be take that or leave it. But that one issue that explains
Cable's in the
Dominion.
series.
Remember the Dominion? They talk about the network of the singularities and how each one is like a conscious, like
it's over 10. Yeah,
like it's hard to explain here in the chat, but if you've read the book, you guys know about the singularities and how they're like a singular intelligence that collapses in on itself, and that's essentially what the black holes are. And then they were thought to be independent, but then since they're wormholes, they actually connect to one another, and so the Dominion is actually a network of singularities, and that's this whole explanation kind of where the phalanx come from. So would creating the singularity connect to that network?
It's a good question.
Yeah,
right.
I got kind of lost about a lot of that stuff, to be honest with you.
Well, I think it'll all make sense now that you've read so much. If you actually go back to the beginning, I think people are going to be picking up all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is going to be, as we're reading X books and going down, we're going to constantly keep flipping back to this mini-series.
Yeah, the commenters have corrected me. It was Rasputin, not Percival. Percival is the one that died in the very opening scene. That's correct. My bad.
Mine too.
Mine too.
All right, so I just want to talk about one more thing on House of X before we move on. The miscarriage of justice, the railroad that happened to Creed Sabretooth. Chase, what are your thoughts on Krakoan justice?
That's crazy. You can't create a law after something's happened and been like, well, honestly, I don't know if you've ever seen that old movie, The Beach, where
Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yeah, where the guy gets mauled by a shark or whatever the hell it was. I don't even remember. But, he's over there dying in the tent, and they move him down the beach as far as they can. So they don't have to deal with it, and they're all celebrating and having a great time. That is what this issue reminded me of. They just push Sabretooth into the ground, and they're like, you know what? Let's just not have to confront this problem is they're turning their back on their responsibilities, in my opinion, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's going to come back to bite him.
That's right.
He's not going to be in there forever, and somebody's going to make him an offer for payback. And he's going to take him up on it, because he did. He's always done horrific things. He's a killer. But they used him in his capacity as a killer, knowing full well what he would do, and then unleashed him on humanity.
Yeah.
And now they're making him pay for being the tool that they wanted.
Agreed.
Can I just say that Pele has made my excellent point, like better than I could, about that's such a good way you put it. They knew he was a killer. These guys used him in his capacity, knowing full well who he was. And then after he did it, they punished him and they threw him in a pit of despair.
Yeah.
Is that not the actions of villains? Like heroes.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing heroic about what the X-Men are doing at this point.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Some of it's
it would be like taking a Black Ops person, like say a special forces guy who's known for Black Ops, and then just throwing him under the bus. Just like, okay, you went out and you assassinated this dictator, and that's great, that's wonderful. We're happy with that. We're going to throw you in solitary confinement for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I meant when I said nothing heroic at this point, I meant in this issue. I didn't see anything in this issue that was heroic.
He's a tool. And that's I think that's how they look at all mutants. That's how Xavier is looking at him. Magneto, all the people that are on that council are looking at specific mutants as a means to an end. And they don't have any real concern. And I think that part of that has to do with the fact that mutants are now immortal. Life has now become valueless to them. Mutant life has become is less value to them than human life, because they can just keep bringing mutants back. And so killing a mutant doesn't mean anything.
That's
going to come to a head, because the natural cycle of life, you have birth rates, but you also have death rates. The death rates have to stay, otherwise you have population issues.
Yeah,
mutants don't have a death rate.
Also, copies. I mean, if anybody knows about duplicating hard drives and copying data, there is a loss rate on copies, and you can do bit perfect copies, but even bit perfect copies aren't always perfect. All you have to have is one that becomes a zero somewhere along the way, and a file can be corrupted. And we're going to have corrupted copies that are going to come forward in this. I guarantee it.
I'd like to play the devil's advocate just real quick about that, because I do agree with you, but from another perspective, and this is an interesting thing. If you were to ask people, on your day-to-day life, if you were to say, hey, do you want to live forever? I guarantee it, because I've seen the results of it, and I've asked these questions to people before. Only 1 out of about 20 people would actually say, yes, I want to live on Earth eternally. And those are crazy results. I mean, that's very few people. So
would you have to live on Earth? I mean, that's the question. Because,
exactly. Yeah.
Eternity is a long time.
Or Krakoa.
Could find a way to get off. I mean, in that situation, perhaps, because you'd have access to the universe as a whole, and be able to have different experiences outside of Earth and outside of what we consider the physical space.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I'm all for working within the confines of what lifetime I have.
Sure. Yeah, that's the majority. That's the majority. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Live for today. I'm of the mind. Live for today. Try to do everything you can in your own life, but if I could get another life, or so on, I'd take it.
100 years or so. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, adding some life to your that's kind of what I'm going for, or what I would like to, Anyway, interesting topic, and I like that Hickman's actually approaching it because technology is changing at such a rapid pace that's going to be an issue coming up soon. Are we going to feel comfortable, using organ transplants and genetically growing our own new organs to extend our lives maybe 1,000 years? Because
Well, what about somebody gets some genetic material from some type of Napoleon Bonaparte and decides that they're going to clone him?
Oof, that's another really dark topic. Yeah,
It's a slippery slope. Like,
Jurassic Park of Hitler.
Well, it goes back to the population control issue, though, and I don't want to beleaguer any points, but in this book, I'm kind of flipping through the book as I'm listening to you guys talk. I mean, Hickman makes a specific comment. He uses Kurt to illustrate a point, and he says we need to make more mutants. It's one of the 3 laws, in fact, of mutant kind is make more mutants. So if you're immortal, if you can't die, and you're just breeding like crazy, and then you're sharing the planet with a bunch of other people, someone's got to go.
Mm-hmm. Listen, you got to remember, the Krakoan seeds allow them to portal to anywhere they want to. So as long as they terraform Mars, they have a whole new planet.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And, what's up?
Yeah. Oh, no, I was thinking, it's a big difference between being immortal or having extended life or something like that and living it and knowing that you can never die, that you can never truly die.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's why Wolverine would be a terrible military leader.
Oh my God.
He wouldn't have the right fear factor.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I can't die, so I'll just.
You wouldn't think about it the same way a normal person would.
He would kamikaze his whole team.
Do it.
It was kind of like a live, die, repeat. Live, die, repeat with Tom Cruise. What was the day after tomorrow? What is it? Whatever the movie. You know what movie I'm talking about.
Love that movie. Yeah.
Yeah. He got to the point. He got to a point where that was a mistake. I've lowered my chances of success. And rather than try to adapt to that, he just took his gun and blew his own brains out.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wow.
A waste of time.
It's like, at what point would a mutant look and say, oh my gosh, I cut my hair too short. This is going to suck.
Yeah.
Okay, well, cut their own throat, or bleed out into a tub or take a handful of pills and just, oh, great, I got my long hair again. Oh my God. What does that do to a person?
So,
all right, guys. So Dylan's actually about to rejoin the chat.
Nice.
So we're going to have to finish the House of X number 6 talk. I can't wait for Powers of X or Powers of 10 number 6 next week. And I'm trying to do a great Adamantium hour with a stack panel with Doc. Pele. We're going to see who else we can get in there. Maybe Gateway. We'll see how it works. And we're going to cover all the implications of what we've just read and what we're expecting moving forward. So let's get on to the last topic. New York City Comic Con's going on right now. And there have been a ton, and I do mean a ton, of announcements. And the first one was DC Comics. Who was it? At New York City Comic Con, DC co-publisher Dan Didio provided an update on the DC timeline. Didio explained that reboots happen when continuity gets confusing or it stops making sense. Wonder Woman is now our first superhero. He said of Generation 1. Generation 2 begins with Superman, and Generation 3 tackles Crisis on Infinite Earths. Pele, what do you think about them retroactively making Wonder Woman the starting point of the DC universe?
I think that they're cashing in on Gal Gadot being so hot. Right now she's like the most successful of all of the launches that they've had. DC's had cinematically over the last 10 years. She's the most successful. I'm talking about as far as crowd appeal, audience appeal, as well as box office combined.
Momoa?
I thought you said Wonder Woman.
Oh, no, yeah. You were saying that she had the most box office appeal. I was saying Momoa, baby. Everyone likes that guy.
Oh
But-
yeah, I'm just talking about that. You know, I think that she had the highest audience score. What I'm saying, you know, they're probably looking at factors of audience appeal. Momoa, yeah, he's okay. He's okay, but you know, I think that a lot of it has to do, you know, too, is, you know, DC is also buying into the whole thing of the future is female. So,
Wow.
you know, that's another identity politics thing. But I think, and I admit that has to be part of it. You know, I don't see how it can't be. You know, they're fishing for a larger audience and hoping to pull in more female viewers, more female readers.
So Dylan, welcome back to the chat. We were just talking about this. I want to throw this to you because I know you're a big DC guy. DC co-publisher Dan Didio provided an update on the DC timeline, and he explained Wonder Woman is our first superhero. He said of Generation 1, Generation 2 becomes with Superman, and now Generation 3 tackles Crisis on Infinite Earths. What do you think about him retconning the DC universe to begin with Wonder Woman now?
Like, it's kind of whatever. I agree with what Pele was just saying on the future is female type deal. I think he's trying to go into that and really, like, show that. It's whatever, because, you know, she's a god or whatever. Well, not god, demigod or whatever. So she's been around for technically longer than Superman has in sense of the universe. Obviously not in sense of, like, when she was published. So I guess that kind of makes sense, but I don't really care. Like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think it's just kind of like announcing it, trying to make it more of a big deal than it actually is. Like, look, the first superhero in our universe was a female, see? And no one really cares. At least I don't think anyone really cares. I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's just kind of a whatever thing. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe they could do more with the Justice Society coming back as well. They could be some of the first heroes.
But it doesn't fall in line with Doomsday Clock, right? Because everything about Doomsday Clock revolves around the arrival of Superman.
Yeah.
That's the only thing
That's
that kind of annoyed me about
But
it.
I agree with that. Everyone's kind of like shafting Jeff Johns now, though. Like, everyone's kind of like, oh, we got Bendis and we got Tom King, and we'll just go with kind of whatever. And Jeff Johns is like doing everything right at the moment. And it's like, let's go with all these people that are screwing everything up and kind of ignore what he's doing. But we'll see how it all wraps up.
Mm-hmm. All right, Pele, I'm sorry I interrupted you. What were you saying?
No, yeah, it runs counter to everything that Johns is doing on Doomsday Clock. And
yeah, that's my only issue.
If you follow the fan interest, if you follow the readership interest, Jeff Johns is killing it, while the others are sucking wind. But they don't pay attention to that. They don't care,
right?
I'm sorry, what was that? You broke up.
The only other DC book that's coming close to Doomsday Clock is Deceased, right?
Yeah. I mean, dead people. You know, zombies are the only thing that comes close to Doomsday Clock, and everything else is a distant third. Yet they're going to give these other creators precedent over, you know, the superior work that has superior sales. You know, it's stupid, and it's more idiot garbage. You know, I'd almost wish, you know, that you know, Didio would just retire or somebody fire him, or it's probably going to have to come down to that.
You know, I believe once AT&T finally gets down to DC Comics, I don't think he's going to have much of a future with the company. But that's just my
he's not.
thinking about it. What's that?
Oh, he's not. You know, the bead counter's going to look at it and say, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, you've ruined some of our brains here. So, Dion, what did you think about them declaring that Superwoman, Wonder Woman is now the first generation of DC superheroes, and disregarding Doomsday Clock and its identifying as Superman being the integral moment?
I mean, I'm hearing about it for the first time. I guess you could say I'm different, but at the same time, it doesn't really make sense, because what makes sense is the JSA are the first superheroes, and if you're going to use the Wonder Woman as the first superhero of the DC universe, it would make sense if it was Hippolyta.
Mm-hmm.
Hippolyta, Diana's mom, and she was Hippolyta was a member of the JSA before Flashpoint happened.
Yeah.
I just So it wouldn't make sense if it was Hippolyta. Hippolyta, who was the first, well, in DC history, was the first to take on the mantle of Wonder Woman, and she was a member of the JSA, and then Superman would come in later after the JSA disbanded. And what Paley said well, they were trying like to, that's like a kind of a cash grab with Wonder Woman. Well, I just think this isn't the right way to get more female readers. But I do understand what Didio was trying to do with trying to make the continuity make sense before and after Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah, DC's got
It's just how it's just how he handles it. It will rub some people the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one thing I don't understand is how they're gonna. They say Wonder Woman is the first hero. Well, what about the Spectre? You know, he predates the DC universe.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, all universes in the DC sphere. So, you know, he's always been around. You know, he's ever since I think he was an angel that was kicked out of heaven, and then he was redeemed, and then he's taken on, you know, he's passed from one human body to the next, you know, trying to redeem himself, you know, and that kind of predates Wonder Woman in my opinion, but yeah, what do I know?
Aquaman might as well.
Yeah, there you go.
But hey, Dylan, I want to ask, how far is Krypton from Earth in light years? Like, Superman's technically really old.
That's true. Yeah, I guess you got a point there. Like, if we're going through that, yeah, technically he is. That would make sense. But
like, he was born like thousands of years ago, right?
Yeah, that would. They want to do that, but I don't think Dan DiDio cares. He just wanted to put Wonder Woman as the first hero. Like, yeah, but yeah, now that I think about it, that would.
Yeah,
you got a point there.
Krypton's on the other side of the universe.
Yeah, it's probably thousands of light years away.
You know, billions. So it goes. Actually, I think they said that to get from Krypton to Earth, you go through a wormhole. You know, a black hole basically that pops you back up. You know, about I think they said 17 light years of travel, but there's a wormhole in between them. So
Superman's way older than he looks.
Oh yeah, much older.
So, Ash, do you have any thoughts on this before we head to the next topic?
Oh my goodness! I just feel like, of course, because of course she is. Everyone made great statements. You know, Spectre obviously, but what about this new age of heroes that Didio was like right there in the mix of? Did they forget about the Immortal Man? Like the guy that just created this character, and the whole thing is they are the first. They're the first 5 humans. They've been since the dawn of the planet, or the dawn of humanity, I guess, on the planet, predating Wonder Woman. Like, I don't know. This is a political thing. This just seems like, I think Dylan, you know, my points. He echoes my sentiments. It's just a chance to go on stage, make a statement, and be like, "Look at our virtue points. Look at we're all there." I don't think it means anything really. When I first heard the statement, I was like, it doesn't really matter because Superman did come along later. You know, chronologically, like in the books, he was first, but he shows up on the planet. I don't actually care about any of this. But then when you start thinking of all these loopholes and go, man, you missed this character, you missed this character, you missed this character. My first thought goes, I thought you're running this company, right? If I make these mistakes, I'm just a dumb fan. But you're supposed to be the expert, right? You keep making statements. It goes back to the Comic-Con statement about like more fans are buying reprint comics than new comics. And then he just like pushes on the gas.
Yeah, I wonder why.
And then it's like, Dan, you keep making statements that keep showing people why you shouldn't have your job.
Yeah.
I agree. All right, Chase, did you want to give final thoughts on this before we move to the next topic?
Absolutely. It took me a minute to find this on Twitter, but Perch isn't with us today, but he can be with us in spirit. I loved what he had to say about this. He said, today at New York Comic Con, Dan Didio finally unveiled the official DC continuity timeline. And just that description alone is a good clue that you're off track. The timeline, which resembled a huge multicolored Excel file, is an interesting idea, but I think also a bad one. He noted that, quote unquote, reboots and complicated retcons are what happens when things stop making sense. This may be the case, but when you're presiding over an era with multiple reboots and retcons, well, I mean, things stop making sense under your stewardship, right? I thought that was a really good comment, and it just rings true,
Especially,
Purchase not
just
wrong.
think about this. The continuity right now. Just a few months ago in Detective Comics, Two-Face took a battering to the eyeball, correct?
Yeah.
What happens in this week's Batman?
Good
Batman
point.
confronts Two-Face. He's got two eyes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can I elaborate one more point I forgot to make on my statement about Doomsday Clock? And this is another thing that just really annoys me as a fan. This is just another further signal that supports my theory that the reason why Doomsday Clock is so late is because Jeff Johns is having to rewrite the original story idea, which was originally supposed to wrap up the continuity of Rebirth and tie it in with the whole Watchmen and make it all make sense. And I really feel with this new news coming out that it just reaffirms my belief that Didio is just going, you know what, screw that. We're not going that route. We're not erasing the New 52 with Doomsday Clock like originally planned, and we're just going to go ahead on schedule my way. And it's going to lose me. It's going to lose a lot of people.
Absolutely. All right, with that hopeful note, let's move on to the next topic. Former Harley Quinn creative team Amanda Conner and Jimmy Palmiotti have reunited for a new 4-issue limited series titled Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey. Recently announced on New York City Comic Con, serves as an official sequel to Conner and Palmiotti's best-selling run on the Clown Prince of Crimes mainline solo series from 2013. It's going to be on DC Black Label. What do you guys think about this one?
I think that there's way too many Harley books right now, especially on Black Label.
Yeah.
Yep.
I couldn't be less interested. DC has turned this character who I already just didn't really care about the whole lot and made it one of my most hated characters. Every time I see her, I'm like, this is one of the dumbest characters you've turned her into.
Yeah.
I could not be less interested.
Well, she ties for a close second for me behind Gotham Girl. It's just plot device, female plot device. It's like, oh yeah, great.
Did anyone ever like Gotham Girl though?
Yeah,
There are people out there
They
that
ruined a popular character.
there are
She had
people out there
promise.
that do. I imagine.
yeah. I mean, Gotham Girl at least started on the Z list, where Harley was an A-list character.
Yeah.
And anyway.
She's genuinely interesting in the animated series and then with Mad Love, and I just think that's the type of character like only Paul Dini should be allowed to write. Just don't let anyone else touch her. There's just no one knows how to handle her. She is DC's Deadpool, and both the fact of how she acts and the fact that she's oversaturated like Deadpool. When Marvel realized a lot of people like Deadpool, they put him on like 50,000 books, and they have like a new team up every month where it's like, here's Deadpool and Black Panther, here's Deadpool and Hawkeye, and it's like, it's such subpar books, and they're doing the same thing with Harley Quinn.
Well said.
I am a big fan of Jimmy Palmiotti, not his Harley Quinn run, but him and Justin Gray had a fantastic run on Jonah Hex, and I loved it. But on Harley Quinn, I'm not at all, and especially for Black Label. There's too many Bat books on Black Label. Like, I like the idea of Black Label, but it's just turned into another way to publish more Batman books. Like, everything is related to Batman besides like Superman Year One and a Wonder Woman book we're getting and a Question book. Like, there's so many Batman books on Black Label. I wish it was more diversified, and I think a Harley book doesn't help with that. And I don't think anyone really cares either.
What about you, Dominic? Let's you haven't spoken up in a little bit. What do you think about this?
I want to give it a shot to see how see how it is. But you are not wrong with Black Label being turned into another way to put out more Batman or Batman related books. But it started out with so much potential. Potential being an imprint for like masterclass writers and artists to tell stories that are in a way spiritual successors to DC's Elseworlds. But and you are not wrong that there is an oversaturation of Harley and her books, and it should definitely slow it down, because if they keep this up, people will be tired of it. And her, the character, even though she's not bad. She's very fun. She's very fun and well crazy.
I hate how the craziness has sorry to interrupt, just how the craziness has been turned into quirkiness. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was saying like she shouldn't be DC's answer to Deadpool, because that's not her character. She has her own identity when Paul Dini and Bruce Timm created him for the anime series before she migrated from the small screen to the pages. And for a while, DC has been consistent with her character and also her internal conflicts, and she kind of like swings like between like villain and anti-hero. But consistently, she's just been the character that we're all familiar with from.
Oh, and don't forget how they turned her into an LGBTQ hero now because of her relationship with
Ivy,
Poison Ivy.
That relationship is terrible too.
Oh my god!
Which also bears pointing out that there's a series for that. So if you want more Harley Quinn, you can read the Harley and Ivy series.
Oh gosh,
it's so bad. Like I genuinely, I really like the latest issue of Deceased, but they had a part in there with Harley and Poison Ivy, and that was the only part I didn't like. Their relationship's just terrible. It feels so forced and just awful. Same with Heroes in Crisis, and that it was awful, especially because Tom King did his whole pet name thing. He has Bat Cat, and that Harley calls Ivy Pretty Girl. That's it. She doesn't really refer to as Ivy or anything. She calls her Pretty Girl every time. She's like, "Oh, Pretty Girl," and it's just so annoying.
Oh, it is. I get gag reflex.
I mean, yeah, they're doing Thelma and Louise over and over and over again. It's like, God, just stop it already. The movie, the movie did it better than you're doing it, and just leave it alone.
Yeah.
So, Pele, I want your thoughts on this before we move to the Marvel topics. DC Black Label started out with so much promise. It was just going to be it was the best creators with the best characters doing stuff out of continuity, so there's no restrictions on them. It just feels like a watered down mess now. How do you feel as a retailer? Has DC stolen money from you by ruining Black Label?
Yeah, I still don't know what Black Label is. Half the customers don't know what Black Label is. They think most of them still believe that Black Label is an adult, more mature reader's title. Label. And they're like, oh, but this doesn't make sense because of this. Why is this Black Label? Or why is, they're confused. I'm confused. And when you have the stores and the customers confused about what it even represents, what books are supposed to be part of Black Label, and it's a fail. That in itself will lead to the failure for the brand, because we don't know. We have no idea. It's whatever they decide to put in there, and the only thing I can tell them right now is well, it seems to be a repository for books that don't fit anywhere else and are out of continuity. There's nothing. There's nothing premium about it, even though I guess it's supposed to be a premium brand. But it's whatever doesn't fit anywhere else. They'll just put it here and try to hype it up and make it seem to be something special. And
now it's the home of pop-up brands. Hill House Comics, and then they threw Young Animal on there. And if you read Harley, and you're like, well, the art's really good, but there's nothing adult about that book. They say the word ass once.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like there's nothing mature in this. This was such a failed opportunity they had. With Batman Damned, the launch was just pitch perfect. They should have went ahead with the Batwang and embraced the Batwang. Just embrace the maturity of the title. And
I'm sure you would, Wes.
embrace the Batwang. To go forward with that and say, we're not going to back down. This is going to be a mature audience title, and we're going to make people uncomfortable, and we're going to make people really think. This is going to be hard-hitting writing, and that was such an opportunity there, and they just fumbled the ball. I mean, it just absolutely unreal how badly that was fumbled.
And they're retroactively making all these books Black Labels. Like,
oh yeah, God,
year one Black Label.
Oh no,
that doesn't make sense.
No.
That was in continuity, correct?
That is continuity.
And it's not adult.
No.
I could give that to any. Well, I wouldn't give it to my 4-year-old, but I'd certainly give it to a 15-year-old. There's nothing adult about that book. It's just the new origin of Batman.
But guys, remember, DC was too confusing. We didn't understand what Vertigo's imprint meant. It just confused us. So they needed to simplify it,
right?
So that we understood exactly where comics that they lied, and having DC and Black Label, and then the kids line. Now everyone understands, right? Am I right?
Right.
Honestly, I hate to say it. I'm more of a Marvel fan, of course. I constantly those are my favorite characters. But the only DC books that I'm enjoying reading, and I'll say enjoying because I buy a little bit more than I should at this point. But Detective Comics, Justice League Dark, and I don't do much more than that right now. Honestly,
I don't blame
you. Should be doing the White Knight, man.
Oh, yeah. I do pull that. It's a mini, so I didn't count it. You know what I mean? It's not really an ongoing. But yeah, I buy everything by Gordon Murphy. Yeah.
Oh, I've been I not doing what I did last time as far as Curse of the White Knight. I've been buying them, but I'm waiting until it's over. I'm going to read them.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for trade like I did for the first one. So
but I'm a floppy guy. I'm just going to wait until all the
You're missing
floppies
out,
are out.
Dylan.
It's a struggle, but it was worth it in the end for the first one. I love White Knight. It's just I want to wait for the trade.
Yeah, Sean Gordon Murphy is a hero.
Yeah, the car chases in that scene alone are worth the cover price.
Yeah,
so good.
Unfortunately, DC's about to lose him.
That's right. He's going independent. Yeah,
but back to what you were talking.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was that, Pele?
No, I was going to say back to what you were talking about. Black Label means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. It's just whatever. It's like Marvel Spotlight. It's whatever they want to spotlight at any particular time. They stick it on Black Label. That's it.
So right now it's a Harley Batman label and some other pop-ups. All right, let's get into the Marvel stuff because we're actually running out of time. We've been hitting all these topics hard. Let's get to the latest announcement. Writer Donnie Cates and artist Nick Klein are the new Thor creative team, and they made the announcement at New York City Comic Con. Ash, what do you think about Donnie Cates and Nick Klein on Thor? Are you coming back to Marvel for that?
Well, as you know, I've actually been a little bit back into Marvel already, and mostly because of Donnie Cates is one of the big reasons. And I got to say, looks like Ash is going to be buying Thor again. One of my favorite comics at Marvel has always been Thor, and Jason Aaron ruined him for me. Absolutely destroyed the character.
Amen.
I am hoping that Donnie Cates can somehow salvage this. I'm a little skeptical because I believe part of the responsibility of a good comic writer is to respect the continuity and the lore of what's happened before. And I can't, I have a hard time supporting well, it's okay when they change it the way I want, but not when they change it the way, other people want.
What did you read the Jason Aaron's God of Thunder series? Did you read that?
I did not, and I have it on high recommendation that everyone says, well, check that one out. It is on my radar.
That is, in my opinion, and I'm very critical of Aaron's Thor.
Yeah.
But that is an awesome series. I recommend everybody to get the trade on that. at least buy the trade.
Yeah, they have a new solicit for that actually. That's gonna like combine all of it together in one. So I might get that. But even still, even if it's great, that doesn't change the fact that afterwards he went off the rails. And
well, it's the only truly great Thor is, and that's what he's been living off of all these years. Was the point I was going to get to. But
yeah, and so you know what, the thing I want to get to on my how my feelings with Donnie Cates being on Thor is like, yeah, that's great. My initial excitement, gut feeling is like, cool. I love Thor. He's one of my favorite characters. It's almost as exciting as when I heard he was doing Silver Surfer. That's what really got me back, because Silver Surfer is one of my favorite characters, and he's doing fantastic with it. And then I realized, wait a minute, if he's going to Thor, that means he's jumping off something else.
Guardians
of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy. And then I heard the guy that I don't buy books from, Al Ewing, is taking over.
That's our next subject.
All right, I'm put that on the back burner. So it's a mixed blessing. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, put it that way.
So Dion, did you have any thoughts about Donnie Cates' Thor? I think it sounds pretty good. Are you going to be buying that one?
Yeah, and especially after seeing the promotional art and well, not clips, but pictures of what Thor is gonna look like in the new series. So it does look promising, but my feelings are kind of similar to Ash's, that it's mixed. On one hand, I am looking forward to it, but on the other, he is going to be leaving Guardians of the Galaxy, so it makes me wonder who's going to take over the series once Cade starts Thor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going to.
Can I ask you a question, Wes? Did they announce, are they rebooting Thor, or are they continuing the numbering?
Yeah, I don't even want to get into.
They're rebooting. Okay. They're rebooting it.
Yeah.
It's another
I'm sure
one.
It'll have a legacy number on it.
It'll have a legacy core. Okay.
That way, if they hit a fake milestone, they can charge $15 for a comic book. So, Dylan, what are your thoughts on Donnie Cates on Thor?
I'm not I never really got into Thor, but I like Donnie Cates, and Nick Klein's a good artist, so I think they're moving in a good direction. The only thing is, for people that didn't like Jason Aaron Thor, which I didn't read any of, so I don't have an opinion on, is Donnie Cates is like a Jason Aaron disciple. He always cites Jason Aaron a lot, as a big mentor to him, so that might not be good for if you don't want the Jason Aaron type Thor to continue. But I think Donnie Cates is a good writer, and he's one of the best at Marvel right now. And I like Nick Klein, so I think they're moving in a good direction. But I don't have a whole lot of thoughts on Thor.
To rebut your point, Jonathan Hickman is a Brian Michael Bendis.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say that.
What did he say? I'm always taking Bendis's crumbs and turning them into meals. Maybe he'll take some
like Bendis.
But. So do you have any thoughts, Chase? Because I think it's really exciting. I think Donnie Cates did so much great for the Marvel cosmic universe, and now him moving more to the Marvel mythological universe, I think is a great move.
I really dig it, and I'm most certainly going to pick it up. I'm not. This is going to sound kind of obnoxious, but dude, I do not like this whole symbiote thing. I'm not into Carnage. I'm not into Venom. I know that's dumb because Marvel's my favorite thing, and those books are incredible. I'm reading them because Cates is amazing. You know what I mean? But I just don't like the characters. It doesn't appeal to me, even though I love Spider-Man so much. So I'm a kind of a weird guy. So this is right up my alley. I'm absolutely going to pick up Thor. That's the bottom line, because Cates is just, he has his own style. I like kind of more of a more complex storytelling, kind of like Hickman does. That's the most intellectual storytelling I've seen ever in comic books, because that's my literary style. That's how I've always written short stories, And so it appeals to me on a deep level, because no one in comics does what Hickman does. But from a standpoint of who are the best in comics, Donnie Cates is one of them, and Thor is it's on my pull list. That's the bottom line.
I can definitely say if you have someone that's looking like I want to jump into comics, throw them Donnie Cates' way. The stories are very easy to understand. They're action packed, but they're well written. The dialogue's all great, and it's a good entry point to comics. You don't want someone to come in and start reading Hickman as their first comic book. It's going to be a little too complicated for them. But I think,
right.
Cates is about the right speed for a new reader, in my opinion.
He's one of the best.
Man, I really hope he gets like Avengers or something else. I hope he gets to spread his wings a little bit more. They got to get Avengers with a good writer soon. But all right, let's talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. They've announced writer Al Ewing and artist Juan Cabal are taking over. Ash, I know you had some thoughts on it.
Well, you know what? I keep hearing all the praise, and I'm not going to knock it because I haven't read it. I was almost tempted because Comixology had a super mega sale. You could get like the first 3 volumes of Immortal Hulk for like $2.99 a piece.
Do it. So good.
Yeah, and as much as I believe and say, okay, he's doing something special over there, the guy is a raging a-hole to fans, and I'm just like, no, I'm not giving you money. I'm standing by my principle. I don't wish anyone else to not enjoy Hulk and stuff like that. But it's important to me that I don't support bad business. Like that's just me. That's my choice. I'm not trying to inflict anyone else. If you enjoy his works and stuff, more power to you. And I do want him to write Guardians of the Galaxy great. And maybe, just maybe, I'll try something. I didn't ever expect I was going to buy a Chip Zdarsky book either, and now I'm buying Daredevil. So I'll try to keep my mind open. But that's just where I'm at now. By the way, Daredevil, it's amazing again. Holy crap! The last 2 issues of Daredevil, it's way back on track.
Zdarsky's legit.
So did you have any thoughts on that, Chase?
Oh, for sure.
I
mean, hey, you know what? I can't bring I like Al Ewing as a writer. I do. Admittedly, I only read the first and second issue of Immortal Hulk, and I said, this is freaking awesome. And I wanted to continue with it, but it's the blockchain thing that I can't agree with. I'll be honest with you. I've been recently talking with some writers over in the comic book world that some people would probably consider to be SJWs, and some of them are really good guys, and they don't block people, unless on an individual basis. They don't single out conservatives and say, look, I refuse to have you follow me or have anything to do with me. I don't want your business. And those guys, I respect them a lot, and those are the guys that are going to get my business and that are going to be my mentors, other than that, man, I can't condone mass blocking. It's the worst business practice. And it's what kind of got me riled up about comics to begin with, about having a negative attitude. And again, I'm coming back to a much more positive view of the industry, and it's because I'm focusing on these guys like Zdarsky, like Hickman, who they have their political views. They don't allow it to reflect the way they treat people, which is fantastic. So those guys are just great. And so I can't see myself picking up anything by Al Ewing, honestly.
Mm-hmm. All right, Paley.
No, never mind.
Okay, what were you saying? No.
Come
on, Ash.
I'm going to bite my tongue on this subject. I'll talk to Chase after the show.
Yeah, all right, that one's going offline. We're going to the DMs, folks.
You're awesome,
Haley,
Ash. I appreciate that.
Haley, what are your thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy with Al Ewing, the writer of your favorite comic book, Immortal Hulk?
Well, second favorite comic, but yeah, like HoX and PoX right now are my favorites, and I consider them like one comic. But anyway, I think I think he could do well with it, honestly, but I don't know about his experience with writing cosmic characters, and the problem that I have with that is I don't know if he's a pretty bright guy. I like his work. I just don't like the person, and he seems like a pretty bright guy, but I don't think that he has the chops to really take on that level of cosmic, the cosmic storytelling. And I think that more than likely what's going to happen is he's going to be getting Donnie Cates to ghostwrite most of it, and it's probably going to end up being almost the same as having Donnie Cates write it. So,
I
think
will
it'll be
also
okay.
say that if you've read his previous team book, I think it was New Avengers by
Mhm.
Al Ewing, it was buttholes. Like, I don't know if he can write a team book, to be completely honest with you. That was one of my
Good point.
apprehensions.
That's a good point. He does seem to have a lot of problems writing beyond just single characters. And you'll notice too that the books in something I noticed in the Immortal Hulk books is as it became more complex and more characters were entering into the mix, the storytelling suffered. And as the more characters there were involved in each particular book, the story actually suffered. So I don't know. I'm kind of thinking that unless Cates is basically writing it and Ewing is just putting his own little slant on things, I think it probably is going to suck, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else have any thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy before we move on? All right, moving on. This one's going straight to you, Pele. After numerous teasers, Marvel has officially announced the arrival of Iron Man 2020, a 6-issue miniseries by Dan Slott, Christos Gage, and Pete Woods. As a retailer, how excited are you to sell your customers that they canceled Iron Man with Dan Slott due to low sales so they could reboot it into a miniseries with Arno Stark this time?
Yeah. Whoever wants it, I'll order it, but I'm not getting any copies for the shop. It's like if somebody comes out of their way and says, I really want this, fine. If not, I'm just going to pass. So I used to not do that. I used to really be anxious about, I need to at least get a few copies of this, in case somebody wants it and they come in and they really want it or something. I'm past that point now. Unless on stuff like that, unless somebody specifically asks for it, I just pass on the whole series. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the way a lot of retailers need to start behaving. Otherwise, it's rewarding Marvel's crappy behavior. So I'm not going to reward them for their bad ideas anymore.
Dion, do you have any thoughts on Arno Stark? I know you read some of the more obscure characters.
Wait, so are they trying? I don't know what this new story. So are they planning to kill Tony, or what's going on exactly?
The teaser image is a gravestone that says "Here lies Tony Stark" with Iron Man 2020 standing over it and his hand like sticking up out of it.
All right, yeah, because I've heard inklings of it through the grapevine, and I don't think that's a book. That's a book I'm gonna buy. Personally, because the main question is, didn't Tony already die? So why are you gonna kill him again and replace him with his brother Arno?
I agree, man. It makes no sense. With the same writer. All right. Does anyone have anything positive to say about Iron Man 2020 before we move to the last topic?
Nope.
There'll be another #1 issue so that we can all invest in and put our kids through college.
Maybe it'll be 6 issues long. So that's
maybe
a good thing.
If we're lucky, Arno will turn bad, and then everyone's favorite hero, Riri, will come in and save the day and become Iron Man.
That's what I'm hoping for, baby.
Exactly.
They're going to launch Iron Man with Riri Williams as a trans man.
Maybe. All right, so the last topic. This is the real comic book gamer topic if I've ever read one. At New York City Comic Con, it was announced that Marvel will relaunch its ongoing Star Wars series in January 2020 with writer Charles Soule and artist Jesus Saez. What do you think about that?
I'm excited about it. They're doing a new time. So when they first when Disney got the rights and they started publishing Star Wars comics again under Marvel, it started with Jason Aaron and it was after A New Hope. So in between Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope, this one takes place after Empire Strikes Back. So it's starting with a new #1, but it's not rebooting the continuity. It's just going to a different time placement. I think Charles Soule is really good in the Star Wars universe. His Darth Vader series, I don't know if anyone read it. It was really good. Like, it got better with each issue because the one before it, I really loved. And when Charles Soule picked it up, yeah, I love that one. And then when Soule picked it up, I was like, okay, this is pretty good, but not as good as the previous one. Then it just got better and better and better, and it was really good. So I'm excited to see what he'll do. I think Soule's a pretty consistent writer. I wouldn't say he's like a great writer, even though with Darth Vader he did great. He's just a very consistent, like, okay, this is good for most of his books. Like, there's nothing really to complain about. There's nothing really to just say this is the best thing ever, not like HoX and PoX or anything like that. But yeah, I think he's really good for the Star Wars universe, and I'm glad they got him on it. I think he'll do some good stuff with it, and I'm excited for it.
I am with you. I haven't bought a Star Wars comic in a very long time, except for the True Believers. I am 100% buying the Charles Soule Star Wars, man. I'm excited because his Vader was phenomenal.
It was great.
It was so
It sold well.
And the time frame that they're going to between
Empire and Return of the Jedi.
It's a great time period. It hasn't really been explored all that much, except for the expanded universe. I want to see Luke make his own lightsaber. I want to see how he finishes training. There's so much cool stuff that happens right in there that you can explore. I'm excited about this one.
The only thing that concerns me is the way that Disney is destroying Star Wars, the new trilogy. That's going to have a ripple effect on other Star Wars products. So I'm really concerned about the Star Wars universe going forward. From what I've seen of the Rise of Skywalker, they're just going to destroy the entire brand. And
they might have already done that.
Yeah,
they can't even sell toys. People aren't going to the theme.
No, they're not. And what is it? Oh my God, Galaxy's Edge right now. They said that attendance, is like 70% behind estimates that they from just 5 months ago. It's a nightmare. And I think that they've done permanent damage to Star Wars and the Star Wars brand, and they're going to keep going until it's completely worthless.
So yeah, even the games suck right now, right, Dylan?
Yeah, but hopefully we're getting a new game next month that actually looks pretty promising, which involves some characters from Soule's of Darth Vader run. It's so that looks pretty cool. But until then, it's weird. They sold the exclusive license to EA, like when Disney first got the rights to Star Wars, and they've come out with 2 games since then. You think they would be pumping out Star Wars games, like these make so much money, but they're both like multiplayer only. One had a campaign that was terrible, like awful, and it's canon now, but it was terrible. It didn't really affect much with the main universe, but it was just awful. But hopefully Fallen Order's good. It looks pretty good at least. But yeah, I'm so excited for Soule. Did you see the like 2 pages that he tweeted out for his run?
No.
I retweeted it the other day. It's so good. It's just showing the end of Empire when Vader cuts Luke's hand off. It looks so good.
Nice. Ash, I know that you're a bigger fan of the current Star Wars movies, but we don't have time for that debate. Are you going to consider giving this Star Wars comic a chance?
I'm on the fence. I haven't bought any of the Star Wars comics currently. Excuse me. I kind of really burned out on EU material, and I consider basically anything that's not movies or direct Lucasfilm TV properties to be EU. And I know it's good. I've heard really good things about the Vader, and I kind of want to go back at some point and just binge them on Comixology or something. But I just look, I do my channel, and every week I kind of do the new number ones, and I just see the just puking out Star Wars comics that Marvel is doing. They literally release a new number 1 Star Wars book every single week.
It's between 4 and 6 a month.
And so there's just so many books out there. It's hard for me to get interested. The biggest factor that I'm having that's a problem to me is when Disney took over, they basically made this big statement: we're erasing the EU as far as canon, and we're going to have our own. And from going forward, all Star Wars stuff is canon. The video games, the comic books, the book, everything. And I was like, oh, that's a dumb idea. And then, in so doing, they didn't give any creators the keys to actually do anything creative. So you got Marvel putting out books, and you got guys like Charles Soule, who I believe, from everyone I trust, your guys' opinions, is delivering quality content. But they don't have the keys to really be creative in that universe, and they don't seem to have Disney working hand in hand with them to, like, you know, do some really good lore. Like, what I would like to see is that 30-year period after Return of the Jedi that led up to Force Awakens. What happened with Luke there? Like, but they're not allowed to play in these boxes. They have to go with stuff that's already known. And so a lot of the comic books and the books, for me as a fan, just feel like, well, we're just sort of playing on things you kind of already knew, and we can't do too much. And so I just lose interest. And for anyone else that loves it, I'm happy that Soul is on it, and it's not one of the dozens of other crap people that they've put on Star Wars in the past. I'll keep my ear out and listen to you guys, and you tell me how good it is, and maybe this will be a series that I can maybe jump on, and I don't know, depend on my budget.
Oh yeah, Marvel's testing the budget, especially in December. 12 X-Men books.
Oh jeez, yeah.
I've got people crying. I literally had a customer crying.
Like $50 just for X-Men in December. I couldn't believe it.
You know, the guy's like, I think he's 20 years old. He delivers pizza, and he's a really, really good customer. A really super nice guy. And he's like, I don't know what I want to do. He's like, I've got, you know, I want to keep up with this, but, you know, I can't afford it. What am I going to do? You know, and he's literally, he's really what I call soft-hearted. You know, he seems to get upset about things very much, a great deal. And I told him, listen, relax, calm down.
You're gonna let him read a book, right?
Huh? Oh, I told him, what do you need? I said, get which books you absolutely feel that you positively have to have. I said, and get the Marvel subscription to read the others. And I said, you'll be a little bit behind, but it'll be okay. And but yeah, I mean, it's reaching a point now to where, you know, people are going to have to choose between buying comics and buying food and buying necessities. And there's some people out there that I'm afraid that they're not going to choose wisely.
If you haven't watched my Marvel December solicitations, 12 issues of X-Men, a 5-part 2099 series. And then the 5-part Annihilation Scourge, all happening in that month, and that doesn't even start to count Spider-Man.
Exactly.
So much pumped into one month, it's terrible. But all right, let's just finish up the Star Wars stuff and get to the recommendations. Dion, are you going to be? Are you interested in the Star Wars book?
Kind of. A little, but honestly, I've not been caught up with the rest of the Star Wars books published by Marvel, but the Charles Soule Star Wars series I might look into when I have the chance, not just with budget, but also with my classes and everything.
Absolutely, you got to keep up the schoolwork.
So I might check it out. No, I just think that Disney they shouldn't have shafted the expanded universe, and they should have incorporated it into the sequel trilogy, and not, in a way throw away George Lucas's outlines for the sequel trilogy, because he already had them planned out.
I'm in full agreement with you, brother.
Me too. Yeah.
All right, Chase, what are your thoughts on this Star Wars? Send us home, because we're going to do recommendations next.
I'm honestly not gonna pick it up. I've got too much on my plate for the coming future. I'm planning on getting I have all of the number ones, all variants on my pull list for all of these X books. And so judging from the number ones, it will be whether or not I pick up the future ones. I'm just, I make a joke and I'm like, hey, my channel is turning into the Jonathan Hickman channel. Well, in the next few months, it's going to be the X-Men channel, and I'm completely comfortable with that, because that's my passion and my favorite characters. So I'm going to put that aside. My last Star Wars book that I enjoyed was Vader Dark Visions, and it was by legendary hopeless Dennis Hallam. And that was freaking awesome. It was short things about Vader, kind of putting him as a secondary character and focusing on other people's lives and how he impacted their lives. So that was the last one I picked up. I'm not really going to touch them, honestly. Yeah.
All right, that'll wrap up the show today. It's time for our comic book recommendations. Dylan, what are you recommending this week?
I'd recommend a new issue of Deceased just came out. It was really good. Besides the Harley Poison Ivy stuff, just a few pages. But besides that, it was really good. Tugged at the heartstrings a bit. There's some emotional moments in it. It's a really good book. The art's a little subpar, but the writing was really good. Also, Old Man Quill is still going on, that miniseries. It didn't start out as strong as Old Man Hawkeye, but it's gotten really good. I've been really enjoying it. And then also, since we're talking about Darth Vader, if you haven't checked out either Gillen's run or Soul's run, definitely read both of those. They're both great, and you can get them all in trade right now. They're really good, and they're definitely worth reading, and like the best stuff to come from Disney buying Star Wars.
Absolutely, I agree with that one. All right, Dion, what are you recommending this week?
I will say The Flash number 79, which is part 4 of the Death and Speed Force story. Death and Speed Force storyline by Joshua Williamson. And it's the latest issue of the Immortal Hulk, which is a tie-in to Absolute Carnage, which goes into what Bruce has been up to during before. Yeah, essentially, I guess the latest issue of Birthright from Image Comics by Joshua Williamson too.
Nice. Ash, I know you're a Birthright fan. What else are you recommending?
Yes, I am a Birthright fan. I recommend checking out. Start with the first trade. It's not really a series you want to just jump in the middle of it. That first trade is astounding. For this past week, like this past Wednesday, Daredevil. Oh my gosh, I read the first 5 issues of Daredevil and it was astounding. And then it went on this arc where it was like this other artist. It was terrible. And a lot of people were just like moaning and groaning about it. And I finally got to it and I understood why. And then I stopped reading it for a while and I was like, oh man. I was like, I was losing hope on this book. And then I was like, you know what? I'm still buying this book. I got to power through it. So I powered through it. They weren't bad. Just the art was terrible. But holy cow, issue 11, which is the third arc, it's the best arc so far. Issue 11 is the best issue of Daredevil I've read. Issue 12 is really great too. Leaves off on a crazy cliffhanger that I was just like, didn't see coming. Man, I read. I want to see Chip Zdarsky do put Chip Zdarsky on Amazing Spider-Man, for the love of God, Marvel. He's in issue 11, and it's like the best rendition I've seen. Oh man. Anyways, Daredevil, and then also for this upcoming Wednesday, Detective Comics is really solid. It's got back into the big arcs again. They're doing a big Mr. Freeze story. I did a review on the last issue. It's very good. And then Sagi Ojimbo is the book that people usually don't know about picking up. It's a book you can almost pick up anywhere. You don't need to start at the beginning or anything like that. If you do, you just go to get the original, like the first Fantagraphics trade paperback and do that story. But it's just an adventure of a rabbit Ronin wandering the Japanese countryside in feudal Japan. Issue 4 started a new story that was great. But it's not written. It's not like modern books that are written for the trade. They're just fun, charming, whimsical adventures. And then, of course, who can forget Spawn 301 comes out this week. So I guess everyone's got to get that.
All right. So Computer Robots in the chats is asking if you're on the stream, can you please put a link of your channel into the chat so he can go check it out? So if you guys have the time, can you please do that for him? We've got Startager is recommending Cyber Frog. He doesn't care what anyone thinks about EVS. It's a fantastic comic book. Debbie Smoke is
if you can get it.
Yeah.
Hey,
I'm going to run out to the LCS and pick that up.
Move it on, guys.
I have a copy for you, Ash. Sorry.
Oh, right on.
Debbie is recommended Deceased, Birthright, Amazing Spider-Man, Justice League, and maybe Tom King Batman issue 80 is actually surprising funny. Yes, Batman issue 80 is actually pretty good. Also, Ash on comics. If you want to see the best Chip Zdarsky Spider-Man comic that you can get, Spectacular Spider-Man issue 310. You don't need to read any books before it or after it.
Damn
that
right.
one comic book is amazing. It's one of probably the best comic of the last, I don't know, 3-4 years. What do you think, Pele?
I would put it in running in the top 5 for the comic of the decade.
There you go.
Top 5.
So,
Wow.
yes, go read that, and you will definitely be sold on.
310, you say? All right.
Yes, 310. It's one of the best comics I've read, like modern.
Awesome.
I'll just real quick. It's amazing because it's a comic that is one man's vision. He does the art, he does the story, he does everything. He does the cover. Everything in this comic is Chip Zdarsky, and so there are no compromises. There's no split ideas on vision or anything like that. It is fantastic. I read it and read it again, and I've read the comic 4 times. I don't read comics numerous times, and I went back and reread this one. So
yeah. You will definitely get a little water in the eye at a couple points if you're an emotional person. All right. Next, we got FF2 is recommending Curse of the White Knight, HoX PoX, Batman and the Outsiders, My Hero Academia, and Detective Comics. And I believe we're caught up. Oh, no. Who's next? Chase, what are you recommending this week?
This is pretty bad, but man, I haven't been reading any new books except for just I've been so busy. I've been working 14-hour days at work. Dude, all of these X-Men books and Detective Comics, or DC villain, he has his lover frozen and in time. It's a beautiful story, and it's a great book. I recommend what I've been reading recently is X Factor 71 through 78 from the 90s. But I've only been reading back issues besides those 2. Honestly, I'm gonna catch up this weekend.
Awesome. Also, if you like Dr. Freeze, Sean Gordon Murphy has a standalone Curse of the White Knight Dr. Freeze one-shot coming up in November, I believe.
That's right. I can't wait.
So you might want to circle that one. Pele, what are you recommending at the shop this week?
of course, everybody should be reading HoX and PoX. The DC, well, my Marvel pick this week's going to be Absolute Carnage, Immortal Hulk #1. Wow. It's really, really amazing.
I didn't like the art, but the story is really, really good.
That's going to be very important going forward. This is an important book regarding the future of important things going forward in the Marvel Universe. I think it's going to be one of those key issues. It's going to be people are going to go back to, and it's going to be a really good issue to have on hand, in the future. I won't tell you it's going to be worth a lot of money, but it's going to be important from a textual standpoint. Another, you've got, what was that? Immortal Hulk 24 came out. It's really good. Cover's fantastic, and it's build up to 25, which is going to have some other reveals that are going to be extremely important going forward. And I guess that's I'm missing something. My God, I'm missing something.
Don't worry, I'm going to hit it.
Go ahead, hit it.
Also, FF2 is recommending Nightwing by Chuck Dixon and Superman by Peter J. Tomasi. Great recommendations, my friend. And my comic book recommendations. I miss Doc. I wish he was here. He's my normal co-host, but he is, getting siding put on his house or something. He's a homeowner. So he's been telling me for a very long time to get this book, Battle Chasers Anthology from Joe Mad. So I've got that now. And then also I have X-Men Extinction Agenda. I will be reading that very soon. Thank you very much, Doc, for those recommendations. I followed through and I got them. And this week I am recommending Ghost Rider #1. It was awesome by Ed Brisson.
I was going to say.
I knew you were, because this is a great comic. I
love it. Went blank. That's what I was thinking of.
There's a bunch of great setup. There will be a review on the channel tomorrow, and I think you all will like it. Obviously, House of X #6. Everyone should read that. But the book that I thought was the best this week, and even better than House of X, was Savage Avengers #6. New artist on the book with Jerry Duggan. He does a really good interpretation of Conan. It's basically Conan and Punisher traveling out of the Savage Lands and through Antarctica, and it's awesome. I loved it. And if you want a great story, you can read it standalone, and it's a fun comic book.
I actually picked that up off your recommendation and read it. It was really good.
Mm-hmm. Die number 8. Die number 8 is out. The whole series of Die has been fantastic. It's a really, it's my favorite indie series right now going forward.
Yeah, I've kind of been falling off of Die lately. The characterization kind of got weird, but they are definitely building up a huge plot in that one. There's like a huge war that's brewing, and the art is absolutely phenomenal.
Gorgeous.
All right. So I think that just about does it for recommendations. Nola Nerd is asking about Contagion. I've only heard good things about that book. I've heard that it's actually really good. Now let's wrap it up. Dion, if people want to follow you and talk about comic books on social media, where can they find you?
Well, they can just find me on Twitter at Dion D-Rock Jr. where I just retweet like different like pieces of art from a variety of people, and if anyone wants to talk about anything pop culture related, they can tweet at me or DM me. And also I stay away from the drama and fighting because well, it's not productive and healthy in the long run. So I just keep myself out of it, and just want to spread some positivity and optimism to people from all sides, and I don't discriminate.
Of course
That
not.
is a beautiful statement. We all appreciate that. Staying away from the drama is best for everybody. I think we can all agree on that one. Pele, where can people find you, my friend?
Find me at _Pele on Twitter and Instagram. Twitter tends to get a little bit political, but I do talk about comics and pop culture and things of that nature too. Instagram, I don't get political on Instagram. It's all comic issues. I talk about new releases. Talk about comics that have come into the shop and comics that are in my personal collection as well. And like I said, no drama on Instagram. So if that's your thing, and that's the best place to follow me.
Awesome. Ash, if people want the drama, where can they follow you, my friend?
Oh, thanks for that. You can follow me. You can find me at Ash on Comics on YouTube. It's 3 words. I put the link in the chat for anyone that likes the convenience. On Twitter, it's at Ash1138. My YouTube channel is devoted really to comic books and just kind of having a conversational style about books. Just like 2 comic nerds in the shop talking about books. That's really what it's about. I try not to really have any drama. Sometimes I'll talk about some things, but really it's rare. On Twitter, I find myself a little bit more contentious with the political stuff. But if you don't like anything I have to say, my DMs are open. I invite you to talk to me. I absolutely don't want to hurt anyone's feelings or offend anyone. That's not my intention. Sometimes I have strong opinions and my mouth gets away from me.
Well, very well said. And yes, Ash is a great follow on Twitter. He's a good guy, and he loves to talk about comics. All right, up next, Dylan, where can people find you, my friend?
Find me at The Real Comic Book Gamer on YouTube. Lately, I've been doing a lot more casual discussions, just talking about books. And I did 2 catch-ups, basically catching people up on what's going on with Nightwing and Red Hood, since those are 2 characters that a lot of people care about, but no one really wants to read what's going on with them right now because it's not the best books. So if you want to know what's going on with those characters, I just did some catch-ups on those. And then on Twitter, the _RCVG, same for Twitch.
All right, last but not least, the man who showed up to help save the stream. We were down one man. He jumped in and brought the conversation up. Chase, where can people find you, my friend?
So I'm a Gateway into Comics on YouTube, and I'm Gateway into Comics on Twitter. And I'm also on Discord as Gateway into Comics with the Chase as the back part of that. I try to keep it the same. I've had multiple people be like, dude, don't change your name to your actual name because then I can't find you I will just know, even though your name's Chase, I will just always call you Gateway into Comics. I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's my YouTube channel. So you can find me on any platform as a Gateway into Comics.
Ash, do you want to tell people where they can find you on Discord? I'm in that Discord. I know Chase is in that Discord. We got a lot of the creators in there. Real Comic Stacks, I believe, is in there.
Yeah, well, the Discord channel Discord runs a little bit differently than like Twitter or other things. It's not like an open platform per se. The program itself is, but people run individual servers on it. So if you are interested in following me or joining the Discord chat, reach out to me in DMs, and I can get you an invite. It's not like everyone under the sun is invited. Otherwise, it just becomes like Twitter, and you get all sorts of yahoos in there. And I want to have a little bit more curated with people who are like-minded and get along. So reach out to me, and we'll talk about it.
Boom, there you go. Ash might have you on Discord, people. And if you want to follow me, I'm on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. And of course, I'm here every day on Thinking Critical YouTube. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Salamat po, and I'm out.
Bye, everyone.
Adios.